What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with the 5th day of the 12 days of Scrubs. I'm having a great day, and I hope you guys all are too. Happy holidays, all that jazz. Today is a really long one, as you can tell, a little over 3 hours. I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. But before we get into it, I just want to remind you guys that if you like these, you can listen to them in podcast form anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you really like these, you should get the Karen Christmas sweater because it helps me out, I'm not gonna lie, link down below. And yeah, on that note, sit back, relax, and enjoy. And I'll see you guys tomorrow with day 6.
So, yeah, basically a spoiled kid got fired in front of everyone, and I thought you guys would enjoy the story. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so this particular store we're going to be talking about today is like a collectibles store. I don't know if you guys have any of those. Usually there's like one in the mall. Just a lot of memorabilia from movies, video games, sports, whatever it is, they can kind of sell collectibles for it. On top of it, they sold like used video games, used DVDs, just kind of a amalgamation of different things into one store. But because it was a bunch of memorabilia, it was pretty cool to just look through. And this one happened to be in the mall, so it was common for people to just kind of walk through it if they were at the mall for the day. It was just one of those stores that you always knew would have something cool to look at. On top of just being a pretty cool store, it had been there literally forever. The mall itself was getting a little older now, but as long as the mall had been there, the store had been there and been open. So clearly they were doing something right. And one of the things that the person who sent this to me really liked about it is that usually the workers were really cool. Like, the subscriber who sent this to me would like go into the store every time they're at the mall to look around a little bit. And the workers had like just started conversations with him about video games, movies, sports. They were super knowledgeable, super cool. And because they were so cool, usually he would go in without a plan to buy something, start talking to a worker, have a good conversation, and buy something anyways. Which obviously means that the store makes money, I will say good customer service like definitely makes you want to buy more stuff in a store if somebody's like answering your questions and being entertaining compared to just somebody being like, ugh, it's on aisle 8. Anyways, on this particular day, the person that sent this to me is at the mall and they decide that they're just gonna go stop by that store to see if there's anything new, maybe talk to a few of the workers, probably buy something just cause, they were bored just kind of looking for something to do. So as he's walking in, he takes notice of this like video game cutout. And, he didn't really remember what the game was because this was a while ago, but it was a game that was going to be coming out in a few months, so they just had, like, the main character, a cardboard cutout of him with the date underneath it of when the game came out. And so he walks in and he sees the worker behind the counter, so he asks a question about the game on the cutout. And listen, it's not like it was a very intense question. He wasn't asking, what the total game size was on the disc. He wasn't asking, what the financial quarters of the company was before the game's release. He asked him something along the lines of like, oh, is that the release date? I thought they moved it. Which, is a reasonable question for a customer to ask. And on top of it, dude, like it's kind of a question you gotta answer because they're trying to probably get the game, so they need to know when it comes out. But for some reason, this worker like looks at him and gives him a dirty look, gives him a look as if he just walked in here covered in like seaweed. And says like, bro, does it even look like I would know anything about that game? And the subscriber's literally caught off guard, like honestly didn't know what to say. In fact, at first he thought he was joking because it was just so rude that there's no way it was serious. So he kind of like laughs a little bit and then he realizes that the worker isn't laughing at all. If anything, he looks like more serious. He doesn't laugh, he doesn't smile. And so he kind of like gives him a look, kind of, you can give someone a look kind of asking for more of an explanation, one of those. And the worker basically raises his hands and goes, well, do I? And the subscriber is like, damn, this dude is serious. All I asked is if that's really the release date, and he's just gonna snap and be like, does it look like I would know anything? Okay. So his response to raising his hands and being like, do I, is to just go, well, I guess not, And at that point, he turns away from the worker because obviously he was being a little bit rude and just decides to go look in the store without talking to anyone. And obviously he thinks it was a pretty weird interaction, but because the store still had a bunch of cool stuff, he was just gonna take a look around. So he goes about looking through the store, just kind of going aisle by aisle. Not that they were really aisle, more like table by table, but you guys get what I'm saying. And as he's going through looking at everything, another customer happens to walk in. And it's like a middle-aged dude, and he walks over to some sports memorabilia and starts looking at it. And over in the sports memorabilia, they had this like case of all their really cool stuff. And he's not trying to spy or anything, but he notices that this middle-aged dude is spending a lot of time looking into the case. And like I said, this case kind of held like all the super expensive stuff in it, which, you know, is what you want to sell if you're a business. I don't know a ton about business, okay? I didn't go to college, but I'm assuming you want to sell the stuff that's worth more money because your margins are probably better and you'll probably make more money. And as he's looking into this case of all the expensive items, he ends up turning around and looking at the worker, the one that had been really rude, and asks if he could like get a key or something so he could look at something in the case just to make sure that it was what he wanted. And you would think that this worker, you know, maybe not hyped, but would have a little bit of excitement about the fact that he's about to sell like one of the more expensive items in the store. But nah, if anything, it just came across like it was the biggest nuisance ever and he just couldn't be bothered. The worker literally like groaned and said something about how he needed a key and it was so far away. And the guy is kind of like, okay, well, I didn't know the key was far away, but like, can you please go get it? I need to see what it is. You know, I want to look at it before I spend a lot of money on it. I'm not just going to buy it sight unseen. And the worker obviously doesn't want to like go get the key, so he just kind of keeps making excuses about how it's super far away. And the guy kind of reasons with him a little bit and is like, look, man, the thing I want to buy is pretty expensive. I don't want to shell out all this money without being able to see it first. And once the worker realizes that this guy is still going to be insistent about him going and getting the key, he's not just going to like sit here and just buy it right now and have it shipped to his house later. You know, like what do you want him to do? He has to see it. Even if he buys it right now, you're still gonna have to go get the key to get it out of the case, but whatever. Once he sees that this guy's not gonna give up about it, he says something about how actually his boss is the only person who's allowed to open the case and he's at lunch right now. And the guy is getting a little bit annoyed with the worker's attitude, but he's still being nice about the way he's asking questions. So he just asked the worker something about like, you know, when is he gonna be back from lunch? And instead of answering it normally and like just being like this time or maybe even I don't know, the worker kind of snaps at this middle-aged man and says like, what do I look like, my boss's babysitter? How would I know? Which is just once again unnecessarily rude, man. I just don't understand. I feel like that's a pretty reasonable question. He wants to look at something in the case. You're saying your boss needs to be here to look in the case, so he's asking when your boss will be here. What about that is like out of pocket to ask when he will be back? He's not saying you're your boss's babysitter, but I don't know. I would assume that your boss said, hey, I'll be back in 20 minutes or something. Anyways, that kind of crosses the line and this middle-aged man is starting to get mad and like literally asked the worker what his issue was. And the worker, once again, decides to just go the rudest route possible and says that I don't have any issues at this job except for people asking stupid questions like you. So once again, just like, bro, he's not asking stupid questions. And even then, dude, here's the reality of it. I had two retail jobs that really sucked. People are going to ask you stupid questions, okay? It's just the reality of the situation. And yeah, sometimes it's going to be frustrating, but you just got to put on the smile and pretend it's not a stupid question, because that's your job. Anyways, the middle-aged guy is looking like he's getting ready to respond, but before he can respond, an older dude, probably like not super old, but older than the middle-aged man, you know what I'm saying, walks in and he's got like a cup with him from the food court, and he's just walking in without a care in the world, dude. He's sipping on his drink, he's swirling the ice around, do-do-do, just, you know, having himself a grand old day, and he sees the middle-aged man and just goes, hey, how are you doing? Do you need to see something from the case? And immediately the subscriber and the guy are kind of taken aback, but they realize that this is probably this dude's boss. And so the guy is like, yeah, of course I would really love to see something in the case. And so the old man with his cup is like, all right, I'll be right back. He disappears for a second to get the key and is back in like literally less than 2 seconds, which rubs everyone once again the wrong way, because the kid was like, it's so far, it's gonna take me to go get it. And this old man, who probably, you know, isn't as fast as he used to be, just went and got it in 2 seconds, so it really wasn't wasn't that far out of the way, but whatever. Anyways, he's back with the key, and at this point, the subscriber, who's still kind of looking through but paying attention to this situation, looks at the worker and sees that the worker looks extremely scared now. Probably thought the guy was gonna leave before his boss came back, but now he's just like, "Aw, crap, I was rude to this dude, and he's definitely about to buy something and tell my boss," and he's looking like he's nervous. Anyways, the boss and the middle-aged man kind of start talking about sports, and the guy reaches into the case and says he wants that one, and it ends up being a signed Aaron Rodgers helmet, which is a quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. I don't know exactly how much the signed helmet is. I Googled it, and it said around $1,500, so a pretty expensive collectible. I can understand why you would want to see what you're buying before you spend $1,500 on it. Anyways, he's looking at it for a second and starts, asking the guy about where the owner gets all this stuff. And it's at that point that the boss reveals that not only is he this dude's boss, but he's also the owner of the store. Turns out, he basically has been running this store since it originated. As I said, it's been there forever, and he just kind of has fun with sports memorabilia, movie memorabilia. His son was into video games, so they started doing video game memorabilia too. And he's just a pretty cool dude talking to this guy about, how he got into the business, why he likes to collect stuff. And at this point, the guy's like, "All right, I'm going to buy the Aaron Rodgers helmet." And throughout this interaction, the subscriber who sent this to me is just kind of walking through the store looking at everything. At this point, he might be on lap 3 or 4 just because he felt like the situation was going to get weird, so he was kind of sticking around just to watch it. But even though he's watching it, he's pretty surprised because the guy that's buying the helmet doesn't mention the rude employee at all to the owner. He's just kind of acting pretty normally, just working with him to get it checked out. And they're standing at the front to check him out, and the owner goes, "Did anyone help you today? Was anyone talking to you before I came into the store?" And the guy just says, "No, just you." And then he kind of asks "Oh, I was just wondering, why does it matter?" And he says that if employees sell something from the case or items over a certain value, he gives them a little bit of commission for it. Which, is hilarious, because not only was this guy rude right before his boss walked in and now had to just shut his mouth because this guy could tell his boss about it at any second, but on top of it, he had literally taken money out of his own pocket because the guy was going to buy a helmet, so if he'd just would have been nice and gotten the key, he would have made a little bit of money off of it. But nope, not only is he nervous now, but on top of it, he's gonna not get paid as much, so just really shot himself in the foot. Anyways, they finish the checkout, and he gives the guy the credit card, they swipe it, it's all done, and he goes to leave. And that's where it should have ended. Keep in mind, the middle-aged guy who just bought something that was being insulted by this worker didn't say anything. He didn't snitch on him, he didn't, make it an issue, he didn't make it dramatic. Obviously, the kid had been rude, but he's just whatever, it is what it is. Still bought something and was just leaving. But I guess this worker was so spoiled and entitled, he just couldn't keep his mouth shut. Because the worker, while he's on his way out of the store, makes a loud comment about how this guy screwed him out of his commission and "Oh, I hope you're proud of yourself for taking money out of my mouth," or something. And listen, bro, this guy didn't steal your commission. You literally did it to yourself. I don't know what you expect, man. This is why you're just kind of nice to every customer from the start, because you never know who's gonna buy something expensive. And on top of it, dude, how are you so bad at customer service that you don't realize that the way that you just blow off people's questions and make them feel stupid is never gonna make them want to give you a commission in the first place? I'm just saying, man. And on top of it, I feel like this guy was being relatively cool. He still bought something. Obviously, he had asked you about your attitude, but he didn't tell your boss. He was being pretty cool about it, all things considered, if you put all the pieces together. So I just don't know why he said something. Congratulations, bro. Now you did it. You did it to yourself. You're gonna get yourself fired. So the guy turns around and asks the worker if he's talking to him, and the worker's like, "Yeah, I'm talking to you." And so the guy looks at the owner at that point and says he wasn't gonna say anything, but see, that's what I'm saying, bro. He wasn't gonna say anything, and you just had to put your foot in your mouth. The worker had been insanely rude to him and didn't want to help him. In fact, he was going to make him wait until you got back from lunch to open up the case. He probably would have left the store, just kind of said what had happened. And the owner looks at the worker and instead of being like, "Is that true or what happened?" says, "Again, man? How many complaints do you have to get before you learn how to do the job?" Which obviously shows that this had been an issue before. It's not a new phenomena. It's not like he's just having a really bad day or something. If the owner looks at you and and goes, again? When someone complains, I feel like that's not exactly the best worker on the planet. Not that the guy needs to be like sweating his butt off 90 hours a week, 1,000,000% effort, but it really does not take much effort to just pretend to care for like 2 minutes. Like, seriously, is it really that difficult to just slap the customer service voice on and pretend to care? Oh, wow, I sure do love the Green Bay Packers too, sir. You know, if you buy 2 of these helmets, it will make you look twice as cool. Next thing you know, bro, he spent $3,000 on helmets, you get a chunk of it, everyone wins. And it's really not that hard to just pretend to care about what the customer's talking about. It's just really not that difficult. Anyways, the kid says something about how, like, he doesn't want to have to pretend to care at his job, you know? And the owner says that that's what he literally pays him to do, is pretend to care, so he should probably do it. And then he kind of launches into this speech, which was pretty cool, about how, like, obviously he knows it's a job. He knows it's not this guy's passion, and that's okay. He's not asking him to, like, dedicate a bunch of time to learning everything. But he says there's no reason to, like, go out of your way to be rude to people that are gonna spend money in the store, which, I mean, is pretty fair, you know? Like, he's not expecting you to love the job to the point where you do it forever, but yeah, when you're at work, just like don't be rude to people. You know, it's just not that hard. Anyways, the owner at that point then looks around the store, sees the subscriber standing there and goes, was he rude to you too? And the subscriber's like, I don't want to get involved, you know, I don't feel like it's my place to say anything, because he just didn't want to get involved. But at that point, this spoiled kid kind of scoffs at him and says something like loser or like moron, like an insulting word under his breath. And at that point, he's like, you know what? Actually, yeah, I will get involved. Once again, just not knowing when to just stop talking, bro. They said they weren't gonna say anything, so you call him a loser? He's trying to help you out. I don't know why he's trying to help you out, probably because he just didn't want to be involved, but like, why scoff at him? So he tells his boss that he was really rude, to be honest, and the owner says something to the worker at that point about how, like, this is the 20th complaint this week. Which, that's a lot of complaints. Like, that's almost an astonishing amount of complaints. I mean, think about it, all right? I think you can work a maximum of like 5 8-hour shifts in a week. I don't know if he's full-time, but let's pretend he's full-time, right? So if he works 5 shifts in a week and got 20 complaints, that's like 4 a day. You have to basically be trying to suck to get 20 complaints in a single week, you know? Obviously, every now and then you're gonna get a complaint, like someone, a crazy dude, you know, some Karen might come in, freak out, file a complaint for no reason. But 20 complaints in 1 week is a lot. And that's not like, you know, that he only got 20 complaints total. I feel like 20 complaints total is still a lot of complaints. So, you know, if he's getting 20 a week, if he's been there for a month, what, he's 80 complaints? Like, how many people is this dude pissing off on a daily basis? And how many people is he pissing off just a little bit, but like not enough to file a complaint? Anyways, the worker says something about how, like, he doesn't really care about random people's complaints, and if his boss wants to believe those losers, then that's his issue. And the owner looks at him and just like very genuinely asks him, he's like, okay, so all 20 of these complaints this week are from losers? And the kid's like, yeah, probably. I mean, they're complaining about workers in a sports memorabilia store. Which, listen, man, obviously some people just complain to complain. That is true. But that many people don't just complain to complain about one specific person being mean. Like, that's just insane, bro. Come on. It's one thing if you're getting like 4 complaints a day, but you're somebody that has a job a lot of people would complain about. Like, I'm sure if you're a lawyer, 20 people probably think you're mean, you know, if you're on the other side of their legal case. If you're a YouTuber, like, okay, 20 people probably think I'm mean. It is what it is, you know? But like, this is just some dude in a store who's managing to get 4 complaints a day to the point where they're like calling the owner and complaining. This isn't like a bunch of people hating Harry Styles because he used to be in One Direction, you know? Not that Harry Styles is anywhere near a lawyer or a YouTuber. He's like one of the most famous people on the planet. But you guys get my point, you know. Anyways, after that, the owner decides to just drop a brutal fatality on this dude. And he's like, just because I'm dating your aunt doesn't mean you can act like that. And at that point, this spoiled kid is just speechless. And then he says that he's like gonna tell his mom about that comment. And the owner snaps back that he's 24 years old and he can't keep telling his mom about everything. But it doesn't end there, because at that point, the kid snaps back that he hates this job anyways and doesn't want to do it. And the owner's like, well, I'm glad you don't want to do this job because you're fired effective immediately. And now all of a sudden, the job that he hated and didn't want, started to seem pretty sweet considering there was like now no job on the table. And the kid now starts yelling about how he can't fire him. And the owner snaps back about like, dude, you're hurting my business. I have to fire you and I don't really care what you think about it. And then he goes into another little speech about how, like, if you were willing to work on it, fine, but you literally just told me you don't care and everyone that complains is a loser. So, like, yeah, when it comes to the job that deals directly with customer service and you having to sell stuff, it's not a job for you. He's like, I'm not saying you can't be good at a different job. This is just not the job for you, bro. If you hate working with customers, bro, by all means, there are other jobs where it doesn't matter, man. Like, if customers don't like you, but you're a debt collector, that's probably a good thing. And now the spoiled kid takes it to another level because he says something about how like he's gonna tell his aunt if you fire him, which I mean, bro, come on, what, you're gonna go tell his girlfriend that he fired you when you know why you're getting fired and it probably makes sense? Like, come on, what he hooked you up with a job and now you're gonna go snitch on him? Plus, even if he's dating your aunt, it doesn't mean that you can just like stay there and lose business and like eventually make him go bankrupt or something. No, you don't understand. It's called the family bankruptcy code. I can just ruin all your businesses and you can't fire me because you're dating my aunt. Anyways, the owner says go ahead and tell her because she'll back him up and it doesn't matter because he's still fired. And the kid at this point is just kind of standing there like, but, doesn't really have too much to say. There really isn't too much to say about it, let's be honest. So he starts to kind of just walk out from behind the counter towards the door. And you could tell that like he was thinking of something to say. He definitely wanted to get the last word in because when he gets close to the door, he turns around and like launches into his little speech. I am the best talent this store is ever going to have. I guarantee you that you're going to regret firing me by the end of the day. One day you're gonna look back at this with nothing but regret. And then he like dramatically took off his name tag and dropped it on the ground, just, get out of here. His name tag is no longer with me. And he starts walking out the door. But as he's walking out the door, the owner yells out like, hey kid. And so he turns around and he says something to the effect of like, we've been open for 20 years. We don't need you. You're not that talented. Because if you were, you would have been better at selling stuff and not making customers angry or something. And at that point, this kid, who keep in mind is 24 years old, that's been revealed. I don't know if that's considered a kid, but hey, spoiled kid does way better in the title than spoiled adult. Flips off the owner and then just like walks away, And so the owner laughs and obviously everybody else is laughing. And so he looks at the subscriber and the guy who had just bought the helmet and apologizes to them. And they both laugh and they're like, it's okay, I've never seen that before. And then he says something about how like in the 20 years he's owned this store, he's never had to fire someone in front of people before. But honestly, man, I can't really blame him. Like, what are you supposed to do when the person that you hired is going out of their way to make people not want to spend money there? Like, if they're just going out of their way to actively encourage people not to keep your business in business, I don't think they're very good at the whole employee thing. Like, if you kept him, it's just a dude you pay to hang out there. It's not like he's actually doing anything, I think he'll be okay. Being in business for 20 years, I'm sure means he's had to fire people and replace people before. Seriously, though, I just don't understand. It's not that difficult to get people to spend money. You just can't be rude to them. Why would they want to buy something from some dude that's like, oh, your questions are stupid and I hate you? Like, that doesn't make anyone want to buy anything. If anything, that just makes people want to, like, leave the store as fast as humanly possible. Even though he's dating your aunt, you can't just bankrupt him. Unfortunately, I don't really think that's how the rules of the game are played, and that's probably not how they should be played. No, Dad, you don't understand. You have to let me take a third mortgage out on the house. I'm your son. Absolutely bonkers story. Would not recommend hiding in anyone's closet. But without further ado, let's get into it. I know you guys are going to enjoy. All right, so the person who sent this to me, his dad ended up getting remarried, and his stepmom was pretty cool at first. Everything was fine, and then she kind of started causing issues with him, and he doesn't really know why she started having beef or what he really did. All he knows is that one day when they were eating dinner, she confronted him, saying that she knew that he was talking trash about her on Xbox and she didn't appreciate that, and if he was gonna live in their house, then he was gonna listen to their rules, so he couldn't talk trash about her. And he was flabbergastedly confused when she starts going off about this, because he hadn't been talking trash about her on Xbox. Like, listen, even if he had been talking trash, who cares? Just let him talk. It's on Xbox, you know? It's not obviously not something you're supposed to overhear. But he started to think his stepmom was hearing voices or something, because he genuinely was not talking crap about her on Xbox. Why would he do that, you know? He had no reason to bring up his stepmom out of nowhere. And he tried to defend himself, saying that, like, he hadn't been talking trash about her and she must be confused, but she doubled down, saying she wasn't stupid and she knows what she heard. And at this point, he's getting offended because he legitimately hadn't been talking trash, you know? Like, imagine someone accusing you of something you didn't do, and then when you say you didn't do it, they double down. No, I know what I heard you say. So he says that obviously she must be dumb if she thinks she heard that, because he never said it, and she gets mad that he called her stupid. And listen, was calling her dumb the nicest thing in the world? No, but I do think it's important that he called her dumb, not stupid, because stupid in my mind is more offensive. I know that's stupid because it's the same word, but you know what I'm saying? If someone was like, you're being kind of dumb right now, in my mind it's not as bad as someone telling me I'm being stupid. But because he had called her dumb, she decides that she's gonna promise that she's gonna catch him talking trash, and you know, he better watch out because she's not messing around. And obviously he's kind of taken aback by this, considering he had just gone to eat some green beans with his parents. He wasn't trying to have an argument, and he had no clue what she was talking about because he hadn't been talking trash. But whatever, he figured maybe she had just had a bad day at work, bad mood or something. You know, his dad was the same way sometimes, would kind of come home all pissed off and just yell about nothing. So he thought, well, maybe she's kind of doing what my dad normally does. Whatever. So he just goes about living his life. Obviously, he doesn't remember the conversation at the forefront of his mind every single day. He's not living life in fear of his stepmom because she said she's going to try to catch him talking trash on Xbox. Because one, even if he was talking trash on Xbox, like, okay, what is she going to do if she catches him? Don't do that. And he'd go, no, I'm just going to keep doing it. Or, you know, option two, he's just not talking trash, so he has nothing to be worried about. So he's just kind of going about his day, doing his thing, and it happened to be the time of the year where the new Call of Duty had just come out. And anyone who's a big Call of Duty fan will tell you that, like, early November, late October, when the new COD comes out, you want to play a lot. Throughout the year, the amount I want to play COD kind of goes down. Like, the closer we get to a new COD, the less I want to play the old one. But when it first comes out, it's really fun to play. So he had been spending a little bit more time playing Xbox than normal, as you do when you want to play a video game. You know, it's not like he was playing 9 hours a day, but he would come home, play for a couple hours, go eat dinner, finish his homework, play some more. But his mom started, like, accusing him at every single dinner that they would have that he was secretly talking trash about his parents on Xbox, and she knew about it. And he's getting more and more irritated every time it gets brought up, because he's like, dude, I'm just not talking trash about you guys on Xbox. Believe it or not, when me and my friends are playing Call of Duty, we don't talk about our parents. We're not sitting there like, hey man, how much do you hate your parents? Oh, that's crazy. I hate my parents more. I don't know what parents think people talk about when they're playing video games. I've tried to explain to my parents before. I'm like, no, I'll play video games with my friends all day, but no one says anything. And they're like, but you talk all day. And it's like, yeah, we talk all day, but no one says anything. Like, you just kind of talk crap, you talk about stuff, but it's not like it's some insane, deep philosophical discussion. And yeah, I've never really been like playing COD. My parents are really bumming me out, man. But he's getting more and more irritated because she just won't drop it. It's like she's insistent on making him mad enough to talk trash so she can get mad about it. And usually when he went to school, he would close his door to his room just because he had siblings and he didn't want them going in there. And, you know, no one had ever said it wasn't a good thing to have his door closed. But one day he comes home and he sees that the room to his door is open. And he's a little bit confused because, as I said, he makes sure that he closes it every time he leaves. But whatever, maybe someone went in and grabbed something. Maybe he forgot. He's not thinking that much into it. But he throws his backpack on the bed and he gets on his Xbox to start playing Call of Duty. And he hops into a party with his friends and they're just kind of talking about, like, nothing, as I said. Maybe about the day or whatever. Oh, this new patch came out and this gun got patched. Like, oh, that's so annoying. And as he's playing the video game, he thinks he hears a cough behind him. And he doesn't know if maybe it was someone in the party or something, but he takes one earphone off and just kind of is like, all right, I'm going to pay some attention because I don't know, I thought I heard a cough. He's not going to freak out and call the Ghostbusters off rip because it could have just been game audio, maybe someone in the Xbox party. But for some reason, it sounded like he was coming from behind him. Well, now that he has his headphones off, about 2 minutes later, he hears another cough. And at this point, there's no denying that it's coming from in his room and it's coming from behind him. So he turns around and he realizes that it's probably coming from the closet. And he also sees that there's a crack in the closet where you could like look at him. And he thinks it's probably his little siblings messing with him, spying on him, whatever. He doesn't think that it's his stepmom because why would his stepmom be hiding in the closet? So he gets up and runs over and rips the door open to be like, why are you in my room? But when he rips it open, instead of his little sibling, it's his stepmom just sitting in his closet with her phone, like, recording. And he obviously freaks out because it wasn't what he was expecting. And he's like, what are you doing in my room? As far as experiences that I never want to experience ever, ripping open the closet door and there being just a fully grown human just sitting there recording me is up there. That sounds absolutely terrifying. But his stepmom doesn't even seem embarrassed. She just replies that she was going to catch him talking trash and he's lucky that he heard her coughing. And he's like, are you insane? Are you actually a psychopath? You are hiding in the closet of your stepson to try to catch him talking trash about you on Xbox. How long have you been in there? You've been in here since I've been home. I know you didn't come and hide in the closet. Like, have you been sitting in the closet for hours? And she kind of brushes it off like it's not an important question. Like, oh, that doesn't matter. And listen, it does matter. Because, like, all right, it's already weird to be hiding in the closet spying on someone. That's pretty crazy behavior. There's no reason to be spying on someone by hiding in their closet unless you work for, like, the CIA or the FBI. And even then, you got a warrant, bro. To just all willy-nilly decide to hide in your stepson's closet for hours on end and just hope that he comes home and starts playing Xbox and talks trash about you is crazy. I understand why she doesn't want to say how long she's been in there, because clearly she had been hiding in there for a while. But she's like, that's not important. And he just kind of yells at her to get out of his room, which, you know, is reasonable. Oh, you've been hiding in my closet trying to spy on me and get footage of me talking trash about you so you can show it to my dad and get me in trouble? Please get out of my room. And she does leave, but as she's leaving, she's trying to spin it into somehow being his fault. Like, well, you know, if you would just not talk trash about me and your dad, I wouldn't have to go to these lengths. Every time I've tried to confront you about it, you've denied it. And obviously the subscriber's reply is like, well, because I wasn't talking trash about you, what do you want me to say? You're actually trying to justify hiding in my closet to get footage of me doing something that I've denied doing because I don't do it? That makes perfect sense right there, you know? Oh, yeah, I'm just gonna hide in his closet because he keeps denying saying something, so maybe if I get a secret recording of it, he won't keep denying it. That's pretty out there. I understand where you're coming from. I need proof. Hiding in someone's closet and secretly recording them, pretty psycho. Whatever, she leaves the room though, and he immediately calls his dad and is like, okay, you do realize that my stepmom was just hiding in my closet to try to get footage of me talking trash. And his dad, instead of acting surprised, says something along the lines of like, oh, I told her not to do that. Which meant at some point there had been a strategy meeting. Oh, we need to get proof of him talking trash. Maybe if I go hide in his closet. And his dad went, no, don't do that. You're telling me this wasn't just a really stupid, spontaneous idea that went too far? This was the strategy meeting? No, you don't understand, honey. I Googled what to do if you think your son is talking trash about you on Xbox, and near the top of the list was hiding in his closet and trying to catch him in the act. And so he kind of snaps at his dad and says, well, why did you, like, not tell me? That would have been a little bit good information to know, is be on the lookout of a crazy person in my closet. And his dad says, well, he didn't think she was going to do it, and they'll talk about it at dinner. And so for the next few hours until dinner, he just stays in his room and he does play Call of Duty, and he doesn't talk trash about them only because his stepmom was probably outside with like a cup pressed up against the door to try to hear everything. And finally dinner comes and he goes down there and his stepmom is there, and she doesn't look apologetic. She doesn't look upset. If anything, she has the look of somebody that's really smug and thinks they're about to get one up on the argument. And so she starts to argue that because he doesn't pay rent in the house, because, you know, kid, that he doesn't have rights to tell her where she can and can't be in her house. So therefore, if she wants to sit in his closet with a camera, she's allowed to. Which, I mean, fair? I guess technically he can't tell you not to hide in the closet because it's legally your property, but I think anyone would be uncomfortable with someone hiding in their closet spying on them. Just because technically you can do it doesn't mean that you should. Like, technically, sure, it's your house. They can't make you not stand there. But it's really weird. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And the subscriber says something along the lines of like, well, yeah, I know you can come into my room, but I would like some privacy if you respect me. As you do, it is just very disrespectful to go all in someone's house and their room and hide in their closet to spy on them. But she doubles down and says, well, I think you've been talking trash about me and I needed proof because you won't admit it. And at that point, his dad steps in and is like, look, he's not talking trash about us on Xbox. At this point, he would have admitted it. And on top of it, even if he is talking trash about us on Xbox, he kind of has stuff to talk trash about because we were hiding in his closet to try to catch him talking trash. I don't know if that's an admission of guilt from his dad saying, I did know about this stupid plan and signed off on it. But I mean, yeah, fair reasoning there. Did you expect him not to talk trash about you when you were literally hiding in his closet spying on him? If anyone does bring up his stepmom on Xbox now, he's just obligated to tell this story because it's absolutely insane. It's not every day you have someone hiding in your closet like the CIA. Who needs a warrant? Who needs a wiretap? Just go straight to the source and hide in the floorboards and record everything, they say. Dinner just got very quiet and awkward after that, so he just quickly finished up his food and went back upstairs, as you do. You don't want to keep sitting there and being in that awkward situation. And as much as I would love to say that this all got wrapped up in one neat little bow with some good solution, his parents just never brought it up again. They just acted like it never happened. Every time he would try to bring it up, they would be like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Literally tried to go full it doesn't exist mode, just rewrite history in the smoothest way possible. When in doubt, just pretend it never happened. It doesn't matter if they have proof. Maybe he should hide in their closet and get footage of them talking about pretending it doesn't exist. And if they get mad, just be like, what? I thought it was okay to spy on anyone. Isn't that the rules around here? Isn't that what the rules are, huh? It's not like they could get mad at you or they'd have to admit that they're idiots too. In which case, you win either way. Let's be honest. Like, either way, it's a dub. Overall, I don't really understand what the beef was. He definitely wasn't talking crap, and he is now, but congratulations on ending up looking like an absolute nutter butter by hiding in his closet. There's no way he's ever gonna trust her again. Like, when someone tries to hide in your closet and record you without your permission, I feel like that trust is broken and you can't really repair that. No matter how many times you play Monopoly together on Thanksgiving, it's always gonna be like, oh yeah, well one time she did hide in my closet and try to spy on me to get me in trouble. I don't understand why boomers hate video games so much. They hear people having fun in an electronic in the same room and they're like, hey, stop talking too much to the Xbox. You gotta come down here and be miserable like the rest of us, okay? You have any idea how many 70-hour weeks I've worked? If I had Xboxes when I was your age, I would've just quit my job. Don't quit your job for Xbox. Being employed is more cool than being a gamer. That being said,
The story time for y'all. I think weddings are supposed to be a very joyous occasion. You know, weddings are supposed to be something that makes you go, wow, what a beautiful day to be alive. But someone sent in a story time to me where the dad at a wedding apparently just decided to ruin it for everybody. I don't know why you would want to ruin your kid's wedding. It seems like taking one of the most important days of their lives and pooping all over it, but apparently that was this guy's decision. And I'm sorry if the audio sounds a little weird right now. I'm redoing my setup, so it might be a little more echoey. I'm working on it. It won't be like this forever, I promise. Okay, so thankfully the person who sent this in to me wasn't the person getting married. That would kind of suck, but he did happen to be in the wedding party. It was one of his friends he had known for a while. He had been dating his girlfriend since the beginning of college. It was the end of college. They had decided to get married. Pretty standard timing on all that. And when he was asked to be in the wedding party, he was like, sweet, they're a fun couple, this is gonna be a great wedding. But he knew something was a little bit off when his friend asked him to be in the wedding and decided to warn him about his dad right away. Just kind of a weird situation, you know, supposed to be asking someone to be in your wedding, super joyous occasion, and you're like, oh, by the way, just so you know, my dad is a little bit nuts. He literally told his friend that his dad has a way of trying to make everything about himself and is super dramatic.
dramatic, so if he was willing to put up with that, he could still be in the wedding. And since it was his friend, he was like, of course I'll be in your wedding. How bad could your dad possibly be? Especially on his kid's wedding day, you know? Like, there's no way he's gonna be over dramatic and try to ruin that. But his friend literally reassured him about how crazy his dad is. Even when he was saying that, he was like, listen, man, trust me. Every important event of my life, this guy has gone out of his way to make it about him somehow. It's like he just does not have the ability to like let other people have attention. And he starts talking about how at his high school graduation, the person reading the names had said his last name wrong because it's like a very uncommon last name. And he wasn't really offended because people said it wrong all the time. This person's reading a ton of names at this ceremony, like it is what it is. But his dad had literally like charged the stage from the crowd of parents and started trying to fight the person who said the name wrong because obviously they had done it on purpose and done it to try to embarrass his son, like ruined his graduation. And listen, man, I get it. It would suck if you've worked this hard and when you graduate, people say your name wrong. That would suck. But I don't know if it's really like charge them and try to fight them over it. What, did you just expect them to know how to pronounce everyone's name at any given time, just always? Plus, if you're talking about a normal graduation, like if someone's gonna be reading hundreds of names, they're gonna get one wrong. Like, let's be honest here, all right? Trust me, I talk for like 20 minutes in a video. How many words do I pronounce wrong on average? Like 700 of them? I don't know how many words I even say in a video. But still, like I feel like charging the stage and trying to fight someone for saying your name wrong is ridiculous, especially at a graduation. Everyone's there. Oh wow, my child has worked so hard. It's finally time for their hard work to be completed. Oh, it's gonna be such a joyous occasion. You're just there beating the crap out of the guy trying to read everyone's names. Just go ahead and ruin everybody's graduation. You think anybody talks about the ceremony? No, everybody talks about that one dad that went ballistic and tried to fight the vice principal. Either way, he was kind of like, all right, we'll see. And they started helping him like plan the bachelor party, that type of stuff. And one thing he noticed is that this guy's dad was not involved in planning anything. And it's not his wedding. It's not his place to say anything. So he just kind of drops it. I don't know. Some people don't have super tight relationships with their parents. It's not that big of a deal. Like, who cares? But his dad was going to be coming to everything. So he's kind of confused because everybody that was attending was involved in planning it except for his dad. And so he kind of asked his friend one day, like, hey, if your dad's coming, shouldn't we ask him like what his opinions are? And the kid was like, no, we're not going to ask my dad what his opinions are because trust me, he will find a way to make it all about him and it's my bachelor party, so we're not doing that. And he's like, all right, fair enough. Cool, I get you. So the day of the bachelor party comes and he still hasn't met this dude's dad yet. And obviously they're all excited. It's going to be a fun time. And they were going to go to this like a golf place where they serve drinks, hang out there for a little bit, and then go somewhere else. And then one of them had like booked out some time at the shooting range where they were going to rent a machine gun and test it. Like just normal or bachelor party stuff. I don't know. I feel like that's stuff that like I've seen a lot of people do for their bachelor party. So he gets there and all of his other friends are really cool. They already kind of knew each other, but his dad shows up and he immediately realized that his friend had not been exaggerating how much his dad just loves to make things about himself, because he like swings the door open all dramatically. And so everyone looks over and there's no one there. And then music starts playing, the beginning of Thunderstruck by AC/DC. And then this old man walks in an all white suit, like head to toe, raises his hands and goes, "The party's arrived." Keep in mind, everybody else is in like t-shirt, jeans, very casual attire. None of them had a musical entrance, but this guy just went above and beyond. And it's like not his party and nobody knew the guy. Listen, maybe that would be funny if you knew everybody really well and it was like an inside joke or something. But I don't know what I would think of someone if this was my first impression of them, is them like having a big musical entrance to a party that's not for them. Even if it was for them, I would cringe a little bit if someone like kicked open the door, ran away from the door, turned on the music, and then walked in. Because think about it, he had to have been standing in front of the door to open it. So he opened it, ran away, turned up the volume on the music, played it, and then made his entrance. And when you start thinking about it that way, it just gets a lot more cringe, you know? Like when you start thinking about the fact that like a TikTok, somebody set their phone up and then lip synced to a song and then posted it, and you think about the process of making it, it gets a lot cringier. That was this guy's entrance, basically. But whatever, they all end up doing this like golf thing, and the dad is talking all this smack when they get there about how he's gonna hit the ball further than everyone and they're just gonna be embarrassed, so they might as well go home now. And listen, I get some people just like to talk crap. I'm one of those people. It's just kind of fun. But you have to have like a friendship with somebody before you start friendly talking crap with them. If you just start doing it to strangers, it comes off a little bit aggressive, man. Like imagine I'm just playing Valorant, this kid says, oh, they're on B, and I'm like, how about you stop being so annoying, all right, you little turd? Like, it's just uncalled for, man. If I do that to Dark Dom, no one cares. It's just normal. Anyways, the other caveat is, like, if you're gonna talk crap, especially about a sport or a skill or something, you better be able to back it up, you know? Like, that's the one rule. If you say that you're gonna destroy me on the basketball court and you're like a 7-footer who can dunk, I'm all right with you saying that. It doesn't bug me. Talk trash about it all day. What am I gonna do? Stop you from dunking? But if you're gonna be talking about how you're gonna smack this golf ball further than Tiger Woods, you're gonna get a PGA contract, then you better be able to step up and just smack the crap out of this golf ball. So everybody gets their hits in, and every time someone's hitting the ball, his dad is like, oh, you guys don't even know how to hit this ball. Come on, hit it like you mean it. What is this? I didn't realize I was at the bachelorette party, like just being a jerk, bro. So whatever, he gets up to hit it, and everybody's kind of egging him on a little bit, being like, all right, man, you better smack this thing. You've been talking a lot of crap. Let's see it. And he goes up, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Happy Gilmore. It's an old Adam Sandler movie. Absolute classic. If you haven't seen it, go see it. But anyways, it's about a hockey player that switches to golf, and he has this funny swing. And he tries to do like the Happy Gilmore swing. Only issue is I don't think he had ever actually tried to practice it before. I don't think he had ever actually played golf before, because he hits the ball, but it goes like 3 feet, which is extra embarrassing in any situation. But when you're doing the Happy Gilmore, like running up, getting a huge burst of speed before you hit the ball, and it only goes 3 feet, it's even funnier. And so obviously the rest of the bachelor party, upon seeing this, starts to laugh, because what else are you gonna do in this situation? Someone starts talking all this crap about how, you know, they're gonna be so much better than you and you guys suck, and then they just fail. You're gonna laugh. But the dad does not like that everybody at this bachelor party is laughing at him. He literally crosses his arms and is like, well, that's not very nice. And listen, man, sure, laughing at people isn't nice, but at the same time, talking crap isn't nice either. And even then, what are you, like 52 years old? You're gonna fold your arms like a toddler and start throwing a fit? It would bug me if a toddler did that, bro, but it's really gonna bug me if some 55-year-old man is like, my feelings got hurt. All right, man, well, guess what? You had 50 years of getting your feelings hurt to learn how to cope with that. It's not my problem. But whatever, everybody keeps laughing, and a few people think he's joking about like crossing his arms and throwing a fit, but he starts saying that like this is dumb, he's not having any fun, they should just get out of here, he doesn't know why they're here anyways. But everybody else is having themselves a good time. Everybody else is like enjoying it, being able to smack a golf club more than 3 feet. They had just gotten there, and it was one of those things where like you booked a booth for a certain amount of time, so they were gonna be there for a few hours, but the dad is having none of it and is now literally throwing a fit, saying that they have to leave right now because he's not having fun. And listen, man, even if it is your party, if you've just got there and you've only been there for 10 minutes and you have it booked for 2 hours, you just deal with it. But especially if it's not your party, you just shut up. No one's saying you have to love it here, but it's your kid's bachelor party, not yours. Your opinion on where you should go and what you should do doesn't really matter that much. You know, I get it, you're the parent or whatever, but imagine demanding that someone just stops their party and goes elsewhere because, I just am not having a good time here. And the son's not having any of it, and he's like, no, we're not leaving, we just got here, I'm having fun. You don't have to golf, but just relax. And the dad's like, I don't want to relax, this isn't fun to me, I can't believe that this is your idea of a good time, we need to leave now, or this is just the lamest lamest bachelor party ever. And the son just looks at his dad and is like, well, then I guess it's the lamest bachelor party ever and I'm enjoying it. So whatever, we're not leaving. And the dad threatens his son at that point and is like, well, if we don't leave, then I'm gonna leave. And he's like, all right. And the dad picks up his keys and goes to leave. And the subscriber who sent this to me is just kind of sitting there in shock. Like, he's not actually gonna leave, right? Like, this is just some big elaborate like feint and he's gonna come back in. He's trying to pressure us to leave. But no, the dude actually ditches his son's bachelor party because they wouldn't leave the second he decided to not have any fun because he had been talking a bunch of crap he couldn't back up. Like, yeah, that's obviously an embarrassing situation, but you want to know how you could have avoided this embarrassing situation? Not talked a bunch of crap about a skill you don't have, you know? Believe it or not, if I was like on a fishing trip with a bunch of people and I didn't know how to fish, I would just say, hey guys, I'm kind of new, so if you could help me out, I'd appreciate it. I wouldn't go around telling all of them that I basically am Percy Jackson and I'm the greatest fisherman of all time, because I'm just not. Like, I feel like talking a bunch of crap before performing a sport that you've never played before just makes no sense. Oh yeah, man, I'm the best driver of all time. You've never driven a car? Like, why would you even set yourself up for failure? Especially talking crap to everyone else. It's not like he's only hyping up his own skills, but you start tearing everybody down, of course they're gonna laugh at you when you fail. But that's just the type of attitude that this guy's dad had about this wedding and all these festivities. Literally left the bachelor party because he just didn't feel like it was fun for him. And obviously that's nuts, but they end up enjoying the rest of the bachelor party. It doesn't seem to bug the son too much, probably because, like he said, he was used to it. The guy did it at everything, so it just didn't really work on him anymore. Like, the guilt trip had become so ineffective because it had been overdone. But whatever, everybody just kind of ignores it, doesn't talk about it. And the day of the wedding comes, and the person who sent this to me is obviously aware that the dad is going to do some type of antic at this wedding because he couldn't even just enjoy the bachelor party for 15 minutes. Anyways, the wedding comes, and it's pretty okay, everything's fine, there's no disruptions during the ceremony, it's going really well, and then it gets to the point at the reception when everybody is gonna give the speeches. And thus far, to be honest, the subscriber had been kind of surprised the dad hadn't been more of like a problem causer. See, I missaid a word. Oh well. You would just think after the golf thing that he wouldn't be able to keep it together through the ceremony, you know? Does anyone have a reason they shall not be wed? Speak now or forever hold your peace. He's just like, I love them. Think they're a great couple. They should get married. Like, just to get some attention. That's what he was expecting. But thankfully, he didn't do anything like that. But then it gets to the point in the night where everybody has to give their speeches. And so the bride's father went first, and he gives this very nice speech about how, like, it's been an honor to watch her grow up and blah, 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 blah. And she's a beautiful young woman, and she made a great choice in her husband because he's a great guy, and he couldn't be happier to have him in the family. Like, a very sweet traditional wedding speech, because obviously it's too late now. You're at the party after the wedding. At this point, you just kind of got to embrace that they're together. I guess technically you could freak out and say, no, I hate this during the speech, but then you're just gonna ruin the mood and make your relationship with that person awkward because you just hate their husband now. And they actually did get along. Like, he got along with her family. But then it's his dad's turn, and he gets up and starts being like, oh, this is such a great couple. They're so awesome. He had never even hung out with them together, so they don't really know what he's talking about. Whatever, he's just doing the generic speech thing. And then he starts going on and on about his son and how all of the good qualities that his son has are obviously from him and his side of the family. And his parents had been divorced because, you know, his mom didn't really want to have to deal with his dad all the time. So obviously it was pretty insulting because his mom is there when he starts going on about how, like, oh yeah, all the bad stuff that he has is from his mom, all the good stuff is from me. It's just not a very funny joke because they didn't like each other. There was a bunch of tension. So it'd be the equivalent of like going to a party. Someone's there that you really don't like and then kind of roasting them on the microphone. So the mom and her family isn't very happy. And so one of the mom's family members goes up to take the microphone. And the dad pulls the microphone away and says that the groom's mom is a sea hag at her son's wedding, and then starts roasting his old family-in-law. Because obviously, if he had been married to her and her family's there, technically they used to be family. And he starts going off about how her brothers haven't been arrested and da 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 da. And how they're all just like garbage people and blah, 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 blah. And listen, I don't know the mom's family. Maybe they are garbage people. But even then, it's not the time to do this at a wedding on the microphone when you're supposed to be giving a speech. And especially not if you're the dad of the groom, like he's really out here, you know, trying to cause a disruption. This isn't a Comedy Central roast, it's your kid's wedding. I feel like there had to have been a better time to sit there and be like, when can I call out my ex-wife and her family? Plus, if you guys have been apart for a while, it's kind of weird you're still that mad, you know? I'm not saying everybody should love their ex-wife or whatever, but if you haven't been together for like 20 years and you're still harboring as much anger as day one, I don't know, man. Eventually, you just gotta move on, right? Like him roasting her brothers, dude. What, your former brother-in-law's 20 years ago? Like, what happened that made you so angry that you're still hanging on to that? At this point, though, it's getting out of control, and obviously the groom, the friend of the subscriber, is not gonna let his dad do this at his wedding, like make it get out of control, turn it into this huge thing. No one wants that to happen at their wedding. So he goes to take the microphone from his dad, thinking that like, okay, my dad's gonna give me the microphone if I tell him to relax because it's my wedding. And so he goes over and says, give me the microphone. And the dad is like, no, I'm not gonna give it to you. And so the son says something along the lines of like, well, it's my wedding, so you're going to give me the microphone. Like, I don't care if you want to, you're going to give it to me. And he goes to grab it. And the dad yells that he wouldn't be having this wedding if it wasn't for his dad because he wouldn't have been born. Which, like, I guess technically true, but it's not your wedding, bro. You're just the dad. And then hits his son on the forehead with the microphone. And it's one of those ones with like the metal grate around the outside that, you know, principals talk into. So obviously it hurts pretty hard. And so he falls back. And at that point, the entire wedding like gasps and starts losing their mind because it was already nuts. But when the father of the groom smacks the groom with a microphone and like knocks him over, it's not what you expect. And everybody else at the wedding, dad's side, mom's side, new family side, starts just rushing him at that point, grabs the microphone out of his hand, picks him up, and starts carrying him out of the place. And the entire time he's yelling that like they can't kick him out, it's his son's wedding, they don't have the right to do it. Keep in mind, he just attacked his son and like smacked him with the microphone, bro. If you didn't want to get kicked out of your son's wedding, you probably should have avoided the whole hitting your son with the microphone. Like, I love my parents, but yeah, if for whatever reason my dad like hits me with the microphone on my wedding day, I'm just kicking him out. You're not sticking around and hanging out with me, dude. No offense. And of course, the bride's family is like, what are you doing? The bride's crying because her groom got hurt. Oh, it's just an entire train wreck. And so the dad gets kicked out. They throw him out of there. He tries to come back in, so they kick him out again, this time a little rougher. And finally, he leaves. And so there's all this commotion, everybody trying to see if the groom's okay, what's going on. He's okay. It had just kind of caught him off guard. But yeah, the bride's family's freaking out. She's been crying. It's just a train wreck. There's tears everywhere, bro. And of course, just think about how much it sucks emotionally for your dad to destroy your wedding, dude. Like, if there's one person you think's gonna have your back on your wedding day, it's probably your parents, at least hopefully. You especially don't expect them to start attacking you with the microphone when you try to make them stop insulting the other half of your family. Listen, I haven't gotten to the part about your mom's toes yet. Like, bump hits him on the head with a mic. What was surprising to the subscriber, though, is the guy took it, like, pretty on the chin, you know? He got up and said, yeah, my dad sucks, I'm sorry, but let's just get back to partying. And obviously, some people were kind of weirded out by it and left, but, like, his close friends, the bride's family, all that stuff ended up sticking around, and he kept partying, you know? He didn't have a concussion or something. He did have a little bit of a bruise, but thankfully he didn't get smacked on the head hard enough with the microphone for like the grate of it to get emblazoned in his forehead, you know? You know how like the metal grate, that wasn't like stapled into his head like a stamp. So it was pretty all right, but overall, yeah, his dad definitely went for the end the wedding special. And the bride was especially pissed. I mean, like a very special, important day. Your new father-in-law tries to ruin your wedding. I would have been pissed too. And she was going off on the dance floor about how, like, he was a jerk and she knew it was a bad idea to invite him. And it was just overall just a crazy situation. I understand everybody's got crazy parents, like some people do, not everyone. But you'd think they'd be able to hold it together for your wedding day, man. Really unfortunate that your dad decided to do this on like one of the most important days of your life, if not the most important day of your life. Crappy dad move. But kudos to everybody throwing him out. I bet you that looked like out of an 80s movie. You know when someone gets kicked out of the bar in the 80s and they just throw him out into the street? I wonder if that's how it went down.
Alright, so as long as this dude had been alive, he had a neighbor that was bizarre to say the least. One of his favorite things to do was to sit in a lawn chair in his front lawn, which, hey, nothing wrong with that. Some people like to sit in their yard and drink a beer, whatever, King of the Hill style. That's totally your right, man. That being said, one thing that he would do that was just weird and made everybody know he was the grumpy old man of the neighborhood is he would sit in his lawn chair on his yard all day, and anytime any leaf would blow into the yard, because that's just what nature does. Sometimes wind comes along, blows a leaf from one yard to another. It's not like anyone's sitting there telling the wind, please blow it into this guy's yard. But he would sit there, and anytime a leaf would blow into his yard, he would get up from his lawn chair, pissed. You could tell he was pissed because he's stomping his feet, swinging his arms. He would go over, pick up the leaf that had just blown into his yard, and then go to his garage. And in his garage, there was this line, I guess, of trash bags, like they were all lined up, and each one had a little label above it with a number, and he would go and he would find the bag that corresponded to the number the leaf came from and put it in there. Yeah, that's right. This guy just had decided to spend most of his days sitting in his yard collecting leaves and putting them in a bag because he was so pissed they blew into his yard. Which I could understand how that's really annoying. If you have a neighbor who has a tree that just drops leaves on your yards constantly, I can get why that's annoying. But like literally sitting there and watching each leaf blow into your yard, running over and getting it and collecting them, that's a little bit of psychotic behavior. But what made it even crazier, it's not like he was just obsessed with keeping his lawn clean. Eventually, when the trash bags would be full, so like let's say his house number was 7, if you lived at 8 and 8 blew enough leaves for the bag to be full, he would come over and just dump the bag on people's yards. So if there was a giant windstorm or something, people were picking stuff up, he would just come over, dump a giant bag of leaves and be like, keep your crap out of my yard, it's not your yard. And people would be annoyed, but at the same time, they just thought it was some crazy old man doing crazy old man things. People would argue with him, but at the end of the day, whatever, just take the trash bag, throw it away. Obviously, this guy's losing his mind, probably better not to argue with him. But that was one of the things that he constantly did. And one of the things that other downsides of him sitting in his lawn chair is he hated all noise, which is stupid to me, bro. I feel like if you're gonna sit in your front yard in a suburban neighborhood where people are just constantly driving and doing things, you just have to prepare for it to be a little loud. Dang it, I'm sitting on a road that's frequently used that people always walk on. Why is it so noisy? Probably because people are walking. But he was the stereotypical old man while he was waiting to clean his lawn too. Any noise, he would be like, do you have any idea how much this breaks the rules of the neighborhood? You're being so disrespectful by daring to make noise. And he wouldn't even just do it for like kids playing outside being loud. This guy's mom one time got into an argument with him because she and her friend who lived in the neighborhood were just on a walk around the neighborhood, which nothing wrong with that. I feel like a lot of people like go on a walk. That's a pretty normal activity. And as they were walking, they were talking. Not insanely loudly, but it's almost more awkward to just walk in silence with one of your friends saying absolutely nothing. So they were just having a conversation, and they walked past this guy's house, and he was sitting in his lawn chair. And as soon as they walked past him having the conversation, he yelled out something about how, like, well, why don't you just scream louder if you want the entire neighborhood to hear your conversation? And both of them had stopped and been like, what are you talking about, bro? What?
We're literally just walking, having a normal conversation, and he started going off about how it's so disrespectful for people to talk outside of closed doors in public, which, like, I've never heard that rule, and also, isn't yelling at people in public, talking to them in public, like, under your own logic, shouldn't you just never talk? Either way, this guy's mom wasn't gonna take it and was like, shut up, mind your business, I can walk on the sidewalk and talk, I don't need a permission slip. And the old man and her got into it about how, like, what the social etiquette was when it came to walking around a neighborhood and talking. And I didn't realize that was some big controversial statement, dude. Was this guy from, like, the 1500s? That sounds like some medieval rules. Doth not talk while in about the neighborhood, for that hasn't the devil's soul in your body, or whatever, bro. Whatever people would say in, like, the 1500s. I tried my best, but, like, you get what I'm saying. That's a very bizarre thing to be angry about. I've never heard of that being a cultural rule anywhere, like no talking on the sidewalk. Everywhere is a library for this guy. Maybe that's his problem. His mom was like an old school librarian during the Great Depression, just took it way too seriously. Even at home, he wasn't allowed to talk. But that was the type of vibe that this guy was. And yeah, people would be annoyed, and every now and then someone would argue with him, but he really took it to the next level once he started blaming everybody else for the pigeons. I don't know if you guys live in a suburb, but if anyone lives in a suburb where pigeons or like a city is nearby, there's not really a whole lot you can do to get rid of them. I mean, obviously you can put like the little spiky things in the awning so they won't make a nest or whatever, but if pigeons want to be in the area, there isn't really much you can do. No one has the remote control to control the pigeons except for the government, you know, all birds are spies. But that being said, like, you can't really do much if a pigeon is in your backyard. It's not your responsibility. Well, I guess this old man not only wanted all of his neighbors to be able to control the wind and make sure no leaves ever blew into his yard, but he also expected them to just prevent pigeons from being in the neighborhood. There was a time every year where there would be a lot more, like they would make babies or whatever, and it started during that period. He would be out in the lawn, and whenever someone would walk by or go get the mail, instead of just being like, keep your leaves off my lawn, now he started yelling at them, saying that their habits were inviting too many pigeons into the neighborhood, and that if they didn't get rid of the pigeons, he was going to be forced to call the police because he simply could not live with the pigeons making noise. And every time he would yell this at somebody, people would be like, yeah, okay, man, sure. Oh, yeah, sure. It's my fault the pigeons are here. I don't know what he would have expected them to do. Just like run up and start yelling at the pigeons. No one invited you here. They're not a vampire. You don't have to invite them across the threshold for them to like live in your neighborhood. But whatever. He would get mad at individual people and blame them for the pigeons. And so obviously people would get annoyed with him and be like, dude, I'm not inviting the pigeons here. I didn't write them a birthday invitation. I didn't do anything like that. And he was so convinced that the neighborhood had some secret plan to invite all these pigeons here to try to make him move that he started putting these giant signs in his yard. Like, imagine a political sign, you know, blah, 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 whatever year they're running. But instead of a political person or a year or anything, it was just threatening messages like to the pigeons and the people inviting them here, which was his neighbors, but he didn't write like dear neighbors. And they were just some very weird unhinged signs. Like one day this guy was coming home on the bus and he sees that there's two signs in the yard, and they're these huge white poster board looking things, and painted on it in horrible handwriting is like, the pigeons are the enemies, I will defeat them, or whatever. And that's a little bit out there. And the other sign said something about like, if you invite the pigeons, you're an enemy of humanity. Which, listen, bro, I don't think this is Planet of the Apes status. I don't think there's some huge war between pigeons and humans. At least not that I'm aware of. Like, if I missed the memo, someone please let me know. Have we gone to war with pigeons or something? And the neighborhood was just laughing at the guy because now his craziness had extended into like putting signs in his yard trying to declare war on pigeons. I think the only time that a country has ever gone to war with birds is the Great Ostrich War in Australia. If you've never learned about that, after this video, go look it up. Basically, there was a bit where the Australian government literally declared war on ostriches. That's what this guy wanted to do with pigeons. Anyways, he would put these signs up, and every couple days he would change it to a new sign with a different kind of threatening thing on it. And after a while, everybody in the neighborhood decided to tell him to put down the signs. It was just an eyesore, bro. Like, people were having a harder time selling their house because of it. Imagine you go to tour someone's home, you know. Oh, hey, what's that sign in the neighbor's yard? Oh, yeah, he's a crazy man who thinks the birds and the pigeons have made an alliance with the neighborhood for, us to all just ruin his day. And they're like, I don't really know if I want to live by this. And on top of it, it's just not very swag, like grandma's driving through the neighborhood to come over for Thanksgiving, the crazy guys out in the yard screaming about pigeons. So whatever, they decided to go over and tell him to please take the signs down or they would contact the HOA. And for those of you that don't know what an HOA is, it's basically like a little association in charge of the neighborhood, and they can fine you and stuff if your house gets too ugly. It's more common in like suburbs near a city, but I'm sure some of you guys know what it is. Either way, they go and they tell him this, and he gets insanely defensive and starts going off about how like it's his right to put whatever signs he wants in his yard, and the only reason they're upset is because he's found out about their secret agreement with the pigeons. And everyone is just kind of like, okay man, yeah, our secret agreement with the pigeons, we don't really care if we're finding out that we're secretly a part of the pigeon gang or whatever, just take the signs down. And he's being like, no, I'm not gonna take the signs down, you guys are being ridiculous, I'm gonna keep them up, I don't care if I get fined. And so at that point, they decide to report him to the HOA, and the HOA says that he has to take the signs down. There's like a rule, I guess, protecting political signs, but because this guy's just putting up signs being like, the pigeons are in the conspiracy, obviously they kind of tell him he has to take them down. And he really does not like that idea. And so he starts standing guard by his signs to make sure that nobody's going to come take them down. And his standing guard attire is a little bit different in where the issue starts. Alright guys, I'm going to interrupt the video for just 1 second. If you look on your screen, there's a gift card code. I give one away every day just because I appreciate y'all supporting the channel. So if you like free money, subscribe if you're new, turn on notifications. And on that note, I'll shut up and get back to the video. Thanks. I don't know if in his mind this was like high mobility clothing just in case he had to get into combat, but he was sitting in his yard in his lawn chair with no shirt on, which hey is fine, whatever, I don't care, in like boxer shorts, just sitting there, and he had like an airsoft gun on his left, and he was just sitting there looking at the signs, and it was very clear that he was kind of daring someone to come try to take the signs. He was going to shoot him with the airsoft gun, which you're not allowed to do, when everyone knew it was an airsoft gun because it had a big old orange tip on it. And obviously, as more people realized that this dude is just sitting in his underwear in the yard guarding his signs, they started to be like, dude, go inside, this is ridiculous, you can't be out here, like, come on, this is absurd. And he starts screaming more about how it's his right to display whatever signs he wants, and if they have a problem, they can just call the cops and he'll explain the Constitution to them too. And they start reasoning with them, or trying to reason with them, I should say, being like, look, we don't want to call the cops. We just want the signs down. That's it. No one is conspiring with the pigeons against you. Just take down the signs. And he's, no, no, no. And now they're also annoyed because he's just sitting in his lawn in his underwear, which is probably not appropriate. Definitely not appropriate. So they decide that they're going to call the police. And I don't really know what else their option is to do. And I can't imagine how that call went down. Like, hello, what's your emergency? Yeah, my neighbor's sitting in his yard in his underwear with an airsoft gun, threatening to shoot anyone that tries to touch the signs that he's been ordered to take down with it. Alright, is it Dan? Oh, you guys know him? Yeah, he does this once a week on the freeway. Like he's just well known in the area or something, but whatever, they call. And they tell him that like, alright, they're on their way. You can still just get rid of all of this if you know, take down the signs and just go inside. We can avoid all of this. Everyone can go about their business. No one really wants to be out here. But Mr. Crazy Neighbor is not really having any of it, and he's like, oh, I can't wait to talk to them. I'm going to tell them everything about how, their laws don't apply to me or whatever. And so they're like, okay. And most people go in. There's like 2 dads out there. One of them is the HOA president, and they're just sitting there with the guy in his lawn chair, and people are kind of watching through the window and whatnot. And the subscriber's dad ended up telling him this story later because he was one of the guys that was standing there. But the entire time, he's starting to ridicule them about how like, oh, trust me, it's the end of the line for them. Once the cop gets here and he shows them all the evidence he has of the pigeons conspiring with them, they're gonna have no choice but to take them to jail. And they're like, dude, what? You have evidence of all of us conspiring with the pigeons? And he says, yeah, I've been gathering it for months, you know, like I'm going to show the cops who's boss and they're going to have to arrest you because you're treasonous, to the government. And listen, I've never heard of anyone getting arrested for treason because they really like pigeons or like, you know, have a secret alliance with them, but they just kind of are trying to stand there and not make the crazy man angrier. And finally, the cops show up and they walk up and they're like, all right, man, can you put down the airsoft gun and go put some clothes on? You can't wear that out here. And he's like, yes, officer, I'll bring my evidence out as well. And so he finally gets up out of his underwear with his airsoft gun. He goes inside, he puts it down, he comes back out with some clothes on, and he has a laptop with him. And immediately the police are like, all right, what seems to be the situation? And they start telling him, look, the sign's got to come down. Here's the thing from the HOA saying they have to come down. I'm the HOA president. We came to take it down. He came out with the airsoft gun, sat in his lawn chair, and the police are like, okay, well, sir, what do you think? They have to get both sides, like they have to take a statement from both people, you know what I'm saying? And he goes, well, officer, what he unfortunately left out is that this entire neighborhood has been working in cahoots with the pigeons to try to lower my property value. And the cop's like, okay, I'm not too sure about that. Do you have any evidence? Thinking that if the guy goes, no, I don't have any evidence, he can be like, oh, all right, well then we'll just disregard all this stuff, the rambling that he's about to do. And he says, yes, I do. And he opens his laptop and he's like, watch this. And it's basically, he had security cameras on the front of his house, and it's clips of people like walking by in front of his house as they do in the neighborhood. And then like 2 minutes later, a pigeon would come and land on his lawn. And obviously everyone watching this is kind of like, okay, yeah, a lady walks by and 2 minutes later, a bird lands on your lawn. That definitely does happen. We can see that on the video, but they're not really understanding what that means. And he's like, don't you get it? And the cop says, no, I don't get it. Can you explain? And he says, well, what the lady is doing is she's walking by and she's calling the pigeon and saying, come poop on his lawn. And so after 2 minutes, they don't want to make it too obvious. The pigeon comes and poops on the lawn. Look, I have another one. He swipes to another one, and it's his neighbor backing his truck out of the driveway and leaving. And then like 5 minutes later, it goes and a pigeon is sitting where the truck was. And the cop's like, okay, what about this one? I go, what does any of this mean? And he says, well, the pigeon is standing guard on his parking spot. Like, this dude had just gone full off of his rocker. The pigeons are working against him with the government. Even then, why would they, like, imagine, bro, your entire neighborhood apparently has Dr. Doolittle skills. They're all talking to the pigeons. That's the world this guy is creating, right? Why would they use that power to just bug you and have them poop on the lawn? Or, like, why would this guy use a pigeon to guard his parking spot? Is his parking spot in danger? Did you plan on stealing it or something? Like, why would he use his power for that? I don't know, man. I feel like if I could talk to birds, I would just be the best, like, sea-level superhero of all time. Birdman, you know, I would just show up and they'd be like, are you Batman? No, I'm worse. And then, like, a horde of pigeons would come at them and just kill them with their street bird rat disease. Anyways, at this point, even the cop is like, all right, this guy's off his rocker. And so he says, well, you have to take the signs down even if they are working with the pigeons. There's not really much that we can do about it, but I do have this order here saying that you have to take these down. And then the guy starts getting pissed. He starts going off on this cop, being like, you have a duty to uphold the Constitution, and when you took that oath, you said you would defend it against all enemies. And they are an enemy. You saw the proof of them colluding with the pigeons to try to bring this neighborhood down. And as an American citizen, I demand that you protect me from this plot to devalue my property. And he's going off. And the cop is trying to be nice. Like, he realizes this guy's just a little out there. So he's trying to be like, all right, that's not what's happening, sir. Please calm down. But the guy keeps getting more and more animated every time the guy is like, I'm not going to arrest the entire neighborhood and put them in jail forever because you think they're working with the pigeons. And the guy is like, I showed you proof that they're colluding with the prison, or the pigeons, not the prisons. And the cop says, you didn't show me any proof. All you showed me is that birds land sometimes after people walk by, which is just nature being nature. And at that point, the neighbor does something that he definitely regretted. He gets up out of his lawn chair that he had still been sitting in to like show them the laptop, and he starts to get up in the cop's face. Which, listen, if the guy's been super chill so far, you've been ranting about how pigeons are working with your neighbors to overthrow the government, I don't know why you would get up in his face. He's already being very chill with you, but he gets up in his face, and the cop's like, okay, back up, get out of my face. And the neighbor is like, you can't tell me what to do. I'm a citizen. I'm the reason that you have a job. I'm paying your salary, so I'm not going to do anything that you say, and what I'm going to do is tell you what's about to go down. You are going to arrest everyone in this neighborhood for treason against the United States, and if you don't, I'm going to contact your boss, and I'll get you fired, and da-da-da-da-da. And as he's doing this, he's waving his finger, and he says, now get it done. And when he says, now get it done, I don't know why he decides to do this, but he takes his finger, and he jams it in the chest and just shoves him. And at that point, the cops had enough, and he's like, all right, that's it, hands behind your back. And the guy's like, you're arresting me? You're arresting me? And he says, yeah, you're way out of line here. Disorderly conduct, you're starting to like get up in my face and push me. This is enough. And the guy's like, this is ridiculous. My constitutional rights are being violated by the pigeons. And the cop's like, look, just put your hands behind your back. I might not process you, but you're at least going in the back of the car. And at that point, he just starts freaking out, like thrashing around, being like, no, you don't have the right to do this. All I was doing is showing you the treasonous behavior of my neighbors. And the cop's doing his best to like not have to fight him. So he's like, okay, man, like, look, let's just go sit in the back of the car. Like, you just gotta calm down. And finally he turns, and when he turns, I don't know if he meant to or not, but he elbows the cop like right in the chin. And at that point, he does what he has to do. And let's just say the guy who's convinced that the pigeon, is colluding with his neighbor to take over the government, once the guy actually is like, okay, I'm gonna have to put him in the back of the car, it doesn't take long. He very quickly is like, okay, this guy's stronger than me, and it doesn't get any worse than that. But he gets him in the car, and he walks over to the guy who's in charge of the HOA, and he's like, what in the world is going on? And they say that they've had issues in the past about da-da-da-da-da, but this is the first time it's gotten this far. And he's like, all right, well, you guys can take the signs down because you have the paperwork that says that's allowed. I don't really know what we're going to do with this situation, but like, go ahead and do it. And so they start going up onto the guy's lawn and taking the signs down, which is what they were allowed to do. The HOA had said go for it. And listen, I don't know if I really agree with whether or not the HOA should be in charge of everything in your yard or whatnot, but like, you picked the neighborhood to live in, you've been paying the dues, you signed the contract, like, it is what it is. But as they're taking the yard signs down, they hear screaming and they look, and in the back of the cop car, they can see the guy being like, get off my lawn, you have no right to take the signs, I know you're working with the pigeons. And they're just like, ignoring it, trying to get everything done, but he just won't stop yelling at him. And they take the signs down, they like put him in the back of this truck thing that they had that was taking some stuff to the dump, and the truck drives away, and they go back home. And all they know is that the cop car left, he was still in the back of it. A few days later, though, they're shocked to see that he is back in his lawn chair, sitting there, same thing as before, with the leaves blowing into the yard and whatnot, collecting them in the bags. But it seemed like whatever they had talked to him about down at the station made him realize that the pigeon theory might have been a little bit silly and overblown, because he dropped it after that. Apparently he had been collecting evidence for quite some time. Who knows how many videos he had of people walking by and then a pigeon 2 minutes later. But however much time he spent there, apparently that got figured out because he never really brought it up again. Probably more out of embarrassment than anything, like you probably snap out of that delusion, oh crap, I guess the pigeon isn't working for the government, and realize, wait, I got into a fight with all my neighbors where I told them that pigeons are secretly the CIA. What? He would still come drop the bags of trash off. It's not like he completely changed. He was still pretty shameless about that. But yeah, he probably learned his lesson on the pigeon front, just because, goodness gracious, man. I don't know how people get on this like rabbit holes where they just start believing the most insane things ever. I think it has something to do with the internet, just because I feel like if you get into a big enough echo chamber, you can convince yourself of anything. But pigeons working with your neighbors to overthrow the government is definitely a new one. What would that society even look like? Like, let's pretend that the pigeons did take over the neighborhood. Would it just slowly become like Bird Person from Rick and Morty ruling the universe or something? I don't really know how that would shake out. Either way, the trash bag situation does still continue to this day. But I'll do another quick story that he added about his neighbor here in the trash bag situation, because it's not as crazy as the pigeon belief. Like, that's the craziest thing he's ever done, but this one was just funny. Anyways, I guess one time he really wanted to teach everybody a lesson to keep their leaves out of his lawn. You know, because everyone is standing out there directing the leaves, telling the trees, whispering to them, please don't drop your leaves on this lawn, put it in that guy's lawn because it pisses him off so much. But instead of just filling up one bag full of leaves and then going and like dumping it on someone's lawn, he decided to let them build up for a while to the point where like every house had 3 bags full of leaves. And this took over a year. Like, for a year, a little bit of it stopped. He was still collecting it and yelling at people, but no bags were dumped. And so he had these huge bags overstuffed with these leaves, right? Like, he had just crammed way too much into them, and he got them all in his hands, and they're pretty heavy bags. They've got twigs and whatnot. And he starts going across the street to like dump them all on people's lawns. He just wanted to do a big pile, as petty as possible. Maybe this was his revenge for the pigeons, you know, just dump like 9 bags of lawn clippings on their yard. But whatever, he starts going across the street with them. And I guess the way that they were positioned or whatever, the sticks in the bag, the weight of the bags, as he's going across the street, like 4 of the bags just rip at the bottom and all the leaves spill onto the road. Which, listen, honestly, if he would have just left them alone, the wind probably would have blown them back out of his yard down somewhere else. But now that this guy had collected them and the bags had just ripped, there's just like a ginormous pile of lawn clippings and whatnot all over the road. And it's his fault now. Like, there's no argument that he's not responsible for cleaning this up. He just made the mess in the road. Unless he's colluding with the trees to try to shut down the road system or something, if we're going to use his own logic. And they only know this because someone was watching it back on the security camera footage later. And as soon as the bag rips, he just looks down at the pile of leaves, and you can see him take like a really big sigh and go, before he goes back over to his house, grabs a rake, and starts cleaning it up, like raking it all up and putting it back in bags. And there's something so funny about him trying to be petty enough to gather these leaves for like a year. Just get a ginormous pile, ruin someone's yard, make them call a landscaper back out, and then as you're on your way to dump it on their lawn, them ripping and you having to clean it all up again. Like, that's hilarious, bro. You're not very good at being petty and getting revenge on people if you end up having to clean up their mess twice. And listen, man, I can understand it would be annoying if there was leaves in your yard, but like, just ask them to clean it up. Tell them to trim the tree. I feel like collecting it in a different bag just to go piss them off with it on purpose. If anything, it would bring them joy when there's more leaves on the yard. But whatever, it takes him about 30 minutes to rake all this up. And by that point, he had just gotten tired, I guess. Like, raking for 30 minutes isn't a blast. I'm sure after already carrying the heavy bags all around, he was exhausted. So he just takes the bags, puts them in his trash can, and then just like goes back inside. So his entire plan that he had been working on for an extended period of time to get all these bags or whatever, like after he had to clean it all up, he just decided it was no longer worth it and threw all the bags away. I can't really blame him though. He's like, dang it, if I try to do this again and another one rips and I have to rake this all up a third time, I'm going to lose my mind. But still, the dedication, collecting leaves for a year, one breaks, just scrap the entire project, who cares? I just really wonder how people like this stay so mad. Like, how are you just so angry all the time? Doesn't it get exhausting? Like, even when it's the summertime, it's hot, it's humid outside, you still just want to sit out there on your lawn and collect leaves to be petty to your neighbors? Do you really have nothing better to do? Like, come on, man. I just feel like if you have time to fight with your neighbors, it's just proof that your life has to be boring. Because if you want to fight with your neighbors, it means you just need entertainment all the time. Like, I feel like people who got stuff going on, that's the last person you ever want to fight with. Wait, they live next door and I have to see them all the time? Yeah, no thank you. I'd rather not get into a fight with somebody that's gonna, like, know where I live. But I guess this guy, that's just all he's got left. Yep, I retired, the grandkids never visit, but I'm basically in a Cold War with my neighbors, so that's pretty cool. I don't know, man. Some people just want to be mad, especially these days, bro. It'll be funny like 60 years from now how many people from our generation are just angry tweeting into the void as like 80-year-olds. Yeah, I hate that guy. Okay, grandpa, they're gonna act like Homer Simpson from the Simpsons movie. Eepa, Eepa. Like no one's gonna be able to know what they're saying in the first place. Just using swag from the early 21st century, or slang, sorry. I guess swag would be slang from the early 21st century. But man, it's just gonna be cringe when we get old. I just hope I'm not a very grumpy old man. Like, I don't want to be fighting with my neighbors, okay? I don't want to know my neighbors. How about that? How about when I'm an old man, you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone, everyone's happy.
All right, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. There's the comment of the day, and yeah, today's story time is pretty nutso. Thankfully, his dad at least stands up for him, but stepmom, one for the crazy book. Definitely going in the crazy book. Let's go. So the person who sent this in to me turned 16 and was told that they had to save up and buy their own car. And I don't think that's a bad thing. If anything, I feel like you probably value your car a lot more when you have to work for it. I'm not trying to say you suck more than a Hoover vacuum if your parents got you a car, but I am saying that if you had to go and work the same amount of hours that car is worth, you would treat it a lot better. And that's just a fact. Anything that gets just given to you is not going to be as important to you. Either way, he was saving up a bunch of money for this car, working his minimum wage job, and was putting in like 40 hours a week, doing overtime whenever he could, while going to school, because he was still in high school. And he had a bank account originally that all this money was going into. And he had gone with his dad and his stepmom to set up the bank account, and they had been put as like the adults on the account. And I think when you're not 18, that kind of has to be the arrangement. But if your parents aren't absolutely psychotic, then your money would go in your bank account and they would just leave it alone. I feel like stealing from your kid is something parents really shouldn't do. But because she had access to the bank account, as soon as the money started getting deposited, she started taking little chunks out, saying that it was for taxes. I don't think she's the federal government or the state government. Those are the only places that I think really are allowed to tax you. If someone just walks up to you while you're walking the dog and starts screaming at you saying that you owe them $3,000 for taxes, you don't have to give them the money. It's not legally obligating. There's no binding there. There's no legal binding that means you have to pay them. But she would take money and say the taxes were going to food, taking care of him, the power bill. And it would be one thing if this family was really struggling. Look, your money goes a long way to help the family, but it wasn't like that. 3 Mercedes in the garage, multiple vacations a year. They would go out of the country as a family. Not the type of situation where you need to be taking your 16-year-old's paycheck to pay for stuff. If anything, they were making him work for his car because they wanted him to have a work ethic because everything else around the house was pretty easy. And this really rubbed the guy the wrong way because she had never done this to any of his older siblings, his older step-siblings, which were her kids. She had only started doing this tax thing to him when he got a job, which is dramatically unfair. The tax thing would just be stupid in general because you're not the government, you're the parent. You can't just take their money. At least I think that's unfair, whatever. Someone out there in the comments right now is like, taxing your kids is actually great. No, all right, it's lame. If they're working a minimum wage job, you don't need to take more money than they're already gonna lose. But especially if you're only going to do it for this one, you might as well just put a note on it that says, I hate specifically you. And that's the way he took it. So he talked to his boss about it, who was pretty cool with him, and his boss came up with the idea of, there's nothing wrong with him taking it in cash if he changed his bank account, and in the meantime, until he got the new direct deposit information, they would have to give it to him in cash. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, if it took him forever to get that form turned in to do the direct deposit, well, then that would just suck. Wouldn't that just be so unfortunate? So he goes and unlinks his bank account on like the online work thing and starts taking his money in cash. And he starts taking the cash and starts hiding it because he doesn't want his stepmom to know about it. And wouldn't you know it, once the direct deposit stopped showing up in the bank account, the taxes just stopped being talked about. At least at first. It was almost like it magically wasn't an issue once there wasn't a steady stream of cash going into that account. So he kept that system for a while, like a couple months. Every week he would come home with this wad of cash in his pocket, run upstairs as fast as he can so no one could question him, shove it in this sock, put it in a boot in the back of the closet, and just had it that way, which is not the safest if there's a fire or anything. I wouldn't recommend doing this, but if your option is a bank account where someone's just taking the money for stupid reasons, or hiding cash in a sock in a boot in the back of your closet, you pick the boot in the back of your closet. Like, if your mom's gonna police your bank account and start taking money for whenever she wants to buy a new pair of shoes, it makes sense for you to just take it in cash and hide it. No one's gonna hold that against you. And finally, after a few months, his stepmom wanted to have a serious meeting with him one day, so he goes downstairs and she says, "Come sit at the kitchen table," so he does. And she starts really pressing him about how he still works, but he hasn't been bringing home any paychecks, or he hasn't been cashing any paychecks, so she didn't understand what was going on. And he tried to come up with this really crappy story, and it's only a crappy cover story because he was such a hard worker, of how he had managed to break this really piece and expensive blended together there, my bad. Expensive piece of equipment, and because he had broken it while he was working, the company was going to dock his pay until it was paid for. And his stepmom didn't buy it because she knew that everything he did very well, and there was no way he would have made a mistake like that. On one hand, massive compliment, like, "Oh, there's no way you would have screwed up, I don't believe you." And it's his enemy, she's stealing his money, she has no reason to compliment him here. But on the other hand, crap, because she now knows that somehow there's money coming into the house, and she also knows that you don't want to tell her how you're getting paid. So he tries to just be like, "No, I broke something, but he can tell that she does not believe it. You know when someone is like, yeah, okay, but you can tell that they don't believe you, but they don't really want to press you about it anymore. But he had to go to work. And he wasn't thrilled, but she kind of let it go, and that made him extremely nervous. He had no choice but to go to work. It's not like he could miss a shift. His boss was cool by letting him kind of bend the rules to take his paycheck in cash. He didn't want to do his boss dirty and not show up to make sure his money didn't get stolen. And even if his stepmom was getting suspicious, he assumed his hiding spot was going to be good enough. I probably would too. Even if someone's going to go look through your room, you don't expect them to start dumping out each individual shoe. The ones at the back of the closet especially that are already very hard to get to. I don't know, I just wouldn't expect somebody to start with that. And it was only a little 4-hour shift, so it's not like she could totally tear apart the room and get it back together in time. And he made sure to tell her before he left, like, "Hey, this is gonna be a 4-hour shift, so I'll be back pretty soon." And she said, "Great, we can finish that conversation about what's going on with the payments you've been getting so we can go back to getting your taxes on track." And if you have a normal job like this, the taxes are automatically taken out of your paycheck. Like when he got his paycheck every week, there already was taxes withdrawn. She called this the stepmom tax. Like this was not her doing his taxes for him. She was not being helpful. This is literally just saying that, like, I'm gonna take some money to help pay for stuff that she did not do with any of the siblings. So he's at work, and the entire time he just has knots in his stomach, and he's not sure why he's so nervous because he assumed his hiding spot was safe, but he's just really nervous. And as soon as he can go home, he gets home, he runs in, and his stepmom is standing at the door and gives him this weird smile. She never stood at the door and waited to smile at him before, and says, "Hey, how was your day?" And he says, "Great." Vroom, zooms by her. "Don't you want dinner?" No, I'm good, I already ate, bye. Gets up into his room, and everything seems fine. There's nothing out of place, there's nothing weird. And he turns around to go back downstairs because he was a little hungry. Maybe he was going to grab something. But he just has this feeling at the back of his mind. Check the boot, check the boot, check the boot. And he had never had that feeling before. But because the boot is where the money is, he decides to go check. And as he's opening the closet door, he's kind of chastising himself. Like, "This is ridiculous, dude. Your room is fine. Literally nothing is out of place. There's no way that she got in here and stole money from the shoe. There would have to be a sign. She would have to be an absolute ninja to get in here, rip it apart, find it, get it back together so spotlessly just the way I left it." And I'm talking hoodies laid on the floor in the exact position, nothing moved out of the way, everything looked precise. But whatever, he ends up going and he pulls out the boot and he dumps it out and the sock comes out, but it looks a little bit less full. And so he empties the sock and the sock is just empty. He had been wrapping the money around this empty toilet paper tube, the cardboard tube. And that's the only thing in there. And he starts freaking out because he had been saving money for a few months now, and he's saving up for a car. And he was pretty close. So there was a few $1,000s worth of cash that had been wrapped around this paper towel tube or toilet paper tube in the sock that is now missing. He and his mom or stepmom had this weird confrontation about where all his money was. He goes to work, comes back, and it's gone. And he had played nice. He hadn't really complained to his dad about it too much. He had mentioned it a few times. But the fact that she had gone into his room and taken the money and then put everything back to try to trick him, like she was playing mind games with him, and that really sets him off. So he decides he's gonna go downstairs and confront her. And he usually tried to avoid confronting her in front of his dad, but he goes downstairs and she's sitting next to his dad on the couch. And he's so pissed off about all the hard work that had just gone down the drain that she had just stolen that it doesn't matter. He's letting her have a piece of his mind regardless. And listen, man, think about how many hours that is. A few $1,000s might not sound like a ton of money to some people. It's a lot of money to me, but think about how much that is working minimum wage. How many hours that is. We're talking 40-hour weeks for multiple weeks. It's not something that you're just gonna let go of easily. So he walks up to his stepmom and says, "Where's my money? Where is it? What did you do with it?" And his stepmom starts trying to play dumb. What? What are you talking about? What money? I don't know. I thought you said that your work was keeping your money because you broke that piece of equipment. And his dad is looking back and forth to them like a ping pong ball, bump, 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 getting hit back and forth, but not actually being hit. And he's pretty pissed off because she's playing dumb. And so he says, "Look, I started taking my paychecks in cash because you were taking money out of them and I didn't like that. And I was keeping the money in my sock. It was there before I went to work. You gave me this weird talk about where my money was. I come back and all of it's gone. So something's going on and clearly you know what happened to it." "Well, it wasn't me. I have no idea what you're talking about. I would never take your money. You think that I would break that bond between stepmom and stepkid? I would never take your money. That would be so out of line, so ridiculous. Here you are making up stories trying to make me look bad. You have no respect for me." She starts really trying to spin this thing into poor me, look at me, I'm the poor victim because my kid has suspicions that I stole his money. And he kind of turns it on her and says, "All right, fine. Well, if it wasn't you, then it was your kids because the money's gone and the only people in the house are the people in the house." And he puts her in a weird spot because that makes a lot of sense. Logically, that tracks. Even his dad is kind of nodding his head, yeah. If it's not his stepmom and the money that he had been saving in his closet is gone, somebody took it. It's not like it grew legs, got up, and disappeared. It's not the beginning of evolution. It's not when the fish decided to make the jump to land. That's not what happened here. Benjamin Franklin didn't suddenly become an anamorph and start walking off. He stayed on the dollar bill, I promise. But she does not like her children being called thieves, and she's immediately like, "No, they would never steal anything." And he says, "Well, then it must have been you." And even his dad at that point says, "I'm not saying you stole it, honey, but if it wasn't you and it wasn't me, then it has to have been your kids, because where else would the money have gone?" And at that point, she realizes she made a mistake, but she doesn't really have an explanation other than selling out her kids. And she might be a bad stepmother, but apparently she draws the line at selling out her own kids. Selling out kids that aren't technically yours is totally different. That's horrible step-parenting, by the way. I feel like if you're gonna be a step-parent, you just gotta really embrace it. Treating them differently, doing stupid stuff like this is not good step-parenting. And it's even worse because you agreed to marry someone knowing you were going to be a step-parent. I don't know. Not that being a bad parent is good, but being a bad step-parent, you agreed to this marriage. If you really knew you didn't want to do it, why'd you do it? Well, I guess the same goes for kids. Whatever, forget the analogy, all right? Pretend it didn't happen. So she finally admits to taking it, but she has to do this long-winded speech about how sometimes when somebody just treats you so poorly for so long, you do things that you later regret, and the amount of ungratefulness that her stepson had shown her is off the charts. He never went out of his way to do anything to make her life easier, blah, blah, blah. Keep in mind, going to school, working 40 hours a week, and he was really pissed off at this because every day he would come home from work and have to do the dishes or have to clean the house, clean the bathroom. He kind of felt like Cinderella, the way he had an evil stepmom making him do chores, to be honest. He was just a lot less pretty. But basically admitting that she was taking all of this money and she had stolen the thousands of dollars in cash out of his closet while he was at work, which meant she had gone through and snooped through all of his belongings because he was ungrateful. Even if someone is ungrateful, it doesn't mean you can just go rob them. Like, what, man? I think we can all agree there are some people that are probably ungrateful for the money they have. It doesn't mean that their bank account is just open season. Some people that have a lot of money, some people that have money in their closet can be ungrateful. And I don't even think this kid was ungrateful. I'm just saying it's a really stupid reason to think it's justified to steal from someone. You just can't rob people, even if they're the most ungrateful person ever. But after she admits it and gives her reasoning, she looks at his dad kind of for some backup as if he's going to support her. And thankfully, for once on the Scrubs channel, he actually has a backbone and starts freaking out on her, asking her why she would ever think that's okay. And especially pointing out that she would never do this to her own kids, which she doesn't even deny. She doesn't even pretend to be a good stepmom. She just embraces it and says that, well, her kids are different because her kids were way better behaved, and so it was totally different if they weren't as grateful. All right, I'm gonna interrupt the video for 1 second. Press the like button and comment. Otherwise, no joke, no scam, this lady will be your stepmom. All right. I know it's a bad one, but I don't make the rules, I just follow them. So you gotta press the like button. So she's saying that he's so much worse than his step-siblings, right? That it's totally different. Even if his step-siblings weren't grateful, they're just so well-behaved. They're absolute angels. And that's absurd because his stepbrother, who was the only one still at home and was like a year younger than him, had just recently, about a month ago, decided to enter his foray into doing bad things by stealing his grandmother's car. Pretty up there in terms of stupid things to do. Like, stealing a car in general is really dumb. It's extra dumb to steal a car from your grandma. What if she has a medical emergency? Oh, where's the car? My grandson took it. Guess I'll just suffer the stroke here. Either way, he steals his grandma's car, takes it on a joyride, decides to try to race someone in a grandma car. It's not fast, loses control of the car, not his, did I mention it's his grandma's, crashes the car, totals the car, and then flees the scene. Gets caught, and when he gets caught is mad that he now has to go over to his grandma's and mow the lawn for the next year to pay for it. She didn't even make him pay for the car. He just has to mow the lawn and he's mad about it. But yes, somehow the guy who's working all these hours to afford a car is the horrible one who's insanely misbehaved. He just was not worse than his step-siblings. He had never stolen anyone's car and crashed it, which put him in a league of his own. It's not saying much to have never done that. And I'm not saying that this guy was like perfectly behaved, but compared to stealing and totaling your grandma's car, anything's pretty chill. Whatever you stay up too late sometimes, well, at least I didn't steal and crash a car. If that's a fair comparison you can make because your family members have done that, you automatically should not be the least favorite. I'm not saying there should be favorites, but you're picking up what I'm putting down. And then she decides to drop a massive ultimatum on this guy's dad and says, your son is tearing our family apart and you need to send him to military school or boarding school or something. And if you're not willing to do that, then this relationship is over. Like, I don't want to be with someone that's not willing to stand up for me and my kids. And his dad starts laughing. He's like, you're really gonna give me an ultimatum between you and my kid? And she folds her arms and says, yes. And his dad does the duh thing and says, well, I'm gonna pick my kid. This situation is insane. You're in the wrong 100%. I'm not gonna sell him out because you decided to steal his money and then say that it's okay because he's badly behaved. Like, what's wrong with you? And she started freaking out, saying that he would regret that, da-da-da-da-da. The kid ended up going to his mom's, but yeah, I guess his dad is officially ending that thing. And now she's trying to be all like, no, please, I'm so sorry. But the dad's staying strong, saying that he can't really go back on that. Plus, if someone really hates your kid, it's just not gonna work, man. Like, you're kind of stuck with your kid. There's not much you can do to not be your kid's parent anymore. So trying to spend the rest of your life with someone that genuinely hates your kids would be impossible. Like, how do you even do that? Well, yeah, I thought this story was insane. I knew you guys would like it at least. It is a happy ending. He says his dad does not seem too shaken up or disturbed about it, so maybe this is all a good thing. Everybody wins in the end. I don't know, I just work here.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. Here is yesterday's comment of the day. Appreciate everyone that takes the time to comment. Today I had a great story sent into my email about this dude's insane neighbor, so I figured I would make a video about it, and then I have a bunch of other good stories too that I wanted to put together, so this should be a long one. Hope y'all enjoy. If you like the long videos, press like and let's go. Alright, so this guy had just moved into a new house about like 4 days ago, and the people that live on the left and right of him had come over and told him that the guy who lives to the back left of him is a little bit nuts, and the guy who lived there before him had some beef with him. But whatever, there's no issue for 4 days, so he thinks that it's probably not that big of a deal. But one night, he's sleeping, and he thinks he hears knocking, but he's not that sure, and then his phone starts blowing up, and he had like one of those doorbells with the camera. And so he checks it and he sees that it's being pressed over and over. So he pulls up the camera and there's some dude that he doesn't recognize wearing nothing but a beanie, like the ones with the long ears, pounding on the door. He had pants on, he did have shorts on, but he's pounding on the door with like shorts and this bunny hat on, screaming about how they're gonna have to fight and he better come out here so they can settle this like men and he's made a mistake. And the person who sent this to me is sitting there, looking at their phone, watching this, being like, what is this guy upset about? They don't know this guy. They don't even recognize him. So they come over the intercom, like on their doorbell, and they start talking to the guy. And he says, what do you want? And the guy's like, I know that you put the fish in my backyard, and whoever put the fish in my backyard, I said I was going to beat him up, so get out here. And the sub is really confused because he didn't put fish in anyone's backyard. He doesn't know what the guy is talking about. So he tells the guy as much, like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't do anything to your backyard. I've only lived here for 4 days. But you need to go or I'm going to call the police. And the guy looks like he's thinking a little bit. You know when someone's got that do-do-do-do-do processing look? And he says, wait, you lived here for 4 days. Did you know? And then says someone's name. And he goes, no, I didn't know that guy. And he says, oh, well, I'm the guy that lives to the back left of you. My name is X. And he says, okay, yeah, I heard you didn't like the guy who lived here before, but I'm not him and I have nothing to do with him. Well, that guy, before he moved out, must have taken some fish and thrown them over my wall, and I was on vacation, so I came back, and there's a pile of dead, stinky fish in my backyard, and there's bugs and maggots everywhere. Which, I understand being mad, dude. Imagine coming home from vacation, someone dumped a bunch of dead fish in your backyard. I would be pissed too. So he thought the guy still lives here, started coming over to fix this fish situation. But it looked like the guy that had moved out had decided he was gonna have one last hurrah to troll his arch nemesis of the neighborhood. So he had like dumped all these fish over the wall. So you would think with this being solved and him realizing, oh, this isn't the guy that used to live here. Like, this guy is not the guy that did the fish thing. He would go home, maybe be a little bit apologetic for the fact that he woke him up attacking his door at 3 a.m. But instead, he looks at the doorbell and says, well, someone's got to pay for the fish in my backyard, so come out here because I want to fight you. And he's really confused and he's like, yeah, I didn't do it. And Mr. Bunny Hat starts saying that he doesn't really care if he did it or not. At this point, he just wants to make somebody pay for the fish in his backyard. Which, yeah, it sucks, but I don't really think it's make someone have to pay worthy. Could you imagine if he ended up going full Batman evil villain?
all these other evil villains, you know, have some huge goal. He's like, I just didn't like the fact that someone put fish in my backyard. So he tells the guy, like, yeah, I'm not gonna fight you, dude. I have nothing to do with that. And the guy in the bunny hat starts screaming at the doorbell even more, saying that he's a coward, and if he wasn't willing to come out there and face the consequences of his actions, then he was always gonna look at him as a coward. And he asks him, like, well, what do you mean I gotta come face the consequences of my action? If I have nothing to do with this, how is this my fault? And the neighbor really doesn't have a good answer. He just really wanted, like, him to come out and fight. It was like he was just looking for a fight. He had amped himself up to come fight his nemesis, and now he just wanted to fight some random dude. So he tells him, I'm not gonna fight you, and you need to get out of here, or I'm gonna call the cops. Like, I'm not messing around, man. This is serious. I'm not finding this amusing. This isn't funny. You gotta go. So the neighbor leaves back to his house, and the next day he's outside, and the guy who lives to the right to him says, what was all that yelling last night? So he tells him the story, and he starts saying that he had had another similar experience with this guy, where him and the guy who had moved out before the subscriber moved in had been fighting. And he had come to the wrong house looking for that guy, and when he answered the door and said, I'm not the person you're looking for, he said, well, whatever, you'll do. This guy just looks at life like it's a fighting video game, you know, just constantly looking for the next challenge, starts beef with people, and then just goes to fight someone that looks vaguely like them. Whatever, you know, you live in America, I'll fight you too. The guy I wanted to fight is American. Whatever, you're a human, I can fight you. He starts making the jump, he's like, sure, whatever, I fought a few house cats. It was what it was. Either way, they've all just decided they're gonna avoid this guy, and they're thinking about getting like a protective order just because he's threatened so many people in the neighborhood. But yeah, this dude's got some issues. I don't know what you do if your neighbor's just trying to fight you for something he made up in his head. Alright, so this next one, this person sent in to me, and they had just gotten to college and had their dorm room, and the way it was set up is like they shared a room with one person. There was a bathroom, and then there was another room with 2 people off of that bathroom, and that was like that dorm unit. So 4 people to a bathroom, 2 people in each room, so 2 bedrooms. And there was no living room or anything, so for the most part, people would hang out in their bedrooms. And the other 2 people in the room adjacent to his happened to have been friends for a while, like they had known each other in high school, they had applied here together, they had tried to get room together. So they got along very well, they were friends, and because of that, they would talk very loudly. And it's not like dorms are known for being incredibly fantastic building, like you can hear stuff pretty easily through the wall. They don't really splurge on materials, cause at least if it's similar to the college I went to, like they know people are gonna be there. They're not really worried about competing if it's the only on-campus housing. But whatever, they would talk loudly, and for the most part, it wasn't that big of a deal, except for late at night, it would kind of keep them up late. But on this particular night, it was the night before a bunch of midterm exams, so the entire building had said that they had to start quiet hours at like 8:30 p.m. just so everyone could study and like focus and not be distracted. Well, for some reason, the 2 guys in this room adjacent to his decided that night they were going to debate Star Wars, and I don't really know much about Star Wars on the level of debating it. Like, I've seen them all, I like the movies, I like the Lego games, but I wouldn't know enough to start debating it. And if you're gonna debate a movie or whatever, I feel like the rule is you can't get that heated. If you start getting mad about arguing over things that don't actually exist, it's kind of crazy. Well, both of these guys were a little nerdy, so they start this Star Wars argument, and it quickly devolves from like a normal conversation about disagreements on movies and lore to them full-on screaming at each other. And it's about 9 p.m., which is well into quiet hours, and within like 2 minutes of them starting to scream at each other, they hear somebody underneath them with a broom like banging on the floor. And so the person who sent this to me is getting embarrassed because like the unit numbers are marked like per 4 people. So these guys are kind of representing the entire unit badly, and people are starting to go on like this group chat thing and be like, who is that? Why are they being so loud? What's going on? And because he's so embarrassed and just wants it to end, and he feels bad for everyone that's trying to study, the person who sent this to me goes and bangs on the wall and is like, can you guys please keep it down? Like, stop it. And that shifts from being mad at Star Wars to them just yelling about how their roommates suck and their roommates never let them have any fun and they should just mind their business. And now the subscriber's getting pissed off. They're like, you guys are going to make our entire apartment look bad. And then when I tell you to shut up, you're going to start talking crap. So he goes up to their door and knocks on the door. And immediately it goes dead silent. You would think for people that were talking so much crap about the guy who just told them to be quiet and saying how much their roommate sucked, that they would be very excited to open the door and say something to his face. But no, it was like the reality of having to say something like that to somebody made them both very, very shy. So he starts saying through the door, like, if you guys have an issue, come on, like, let's talk about it, let's settle it. And nope, they didn't come out, they just ignored him, and eventually he goes back to his room, studies, and goes to bed. The next morning he wakes up, and obviously they had lived together for a while at that point, so he knew everybody's schedule. He knew that they didn't have classes for a bit, so he faked leaving. I know that sounds nuts, but he basically said, all right, I'm out, went to the door, opened it, closed it, and then tiptoed back and sat down. And as soon as they thought he was gone, they come out, and they see him on the couch, and they turn white as a ghost. When someone is just exuding fear, you can almost smell the fear on them. You know, if you were a vampire, you'd be like, I can smell your fear. They look scared. And he starts saying, guys, what's up? You were talking so much crap last night. What was up with that? And these absolute masterminds must have realized that if they wanted to talk crap like that in real life, they might have to back it up, because they had a talk last night and decided to mutually just say that they didn't remember it and didn't know what he was talking about. Which has got to be one of the funniest ways people try to get out of stuff, is just being like, no, I don't know, that didn't happen. And so he looks at him and he's like, so you guys didn't yell at me through the wall last night that you could beat me up and I sucked and I never let you guys have any fun? And they were like, no, absolutely not. We would never do that. Yeah, it must have been the people underneath us. And he's like, oh, if it was the people underneath us, then we better go talk to them. Because, we wouldn't want anyone underneath us to cause problems for our apartment. And they get even more shy, and they're like, oh, no, we don't have to do that. We don't have to. And the subscriber is like, guys, come on. If they were causing us to have this fight and pretending to be you and impersonating you, we gotta settle this. We can't let this stand. This is gonna cause issues. And they were like, yeah, fine, we'll go. And he's like, all right, I'll come with you. Let's go down there. And they said, no, we're sure you're busy. We're sure you're busy. You don't have to come along. Don't sweat it. And at that point, he had clearly embarrassed them enough, so he said, all right, well, you guys go handle it. And he made them leave the apartment, and they couldn't really come back until he had class later. So he doesn't know where they went, but they definitely just pretended that they confronted him and they apologized. But for a few hours, they had to go hide out of the apartment. Overall, I think if you're going to talk crap, you just got to back it up. That's the rule. If you don't want to have to back up talking crap, then don't scream that you could beat up your roommate through the wall and then not be able to beat up your roommate. You could avoid all of this by just not threatening people. It's a very easy solution to all these issues. All right, guys, I promise there's more stories, but I got to get the likes up here on the channel. It's starting to take me out of recommended, so I got to do what I got to do. If you are enjoying these, please hit the like button. It helps the video do better. I'd appreciate it, and I'll shut up and get back to the video now. Okay, this next one's just really, really stupid. So this person lives in a smaller town, and there's 2 neighborhoods, and both of them happen to have a very active next door community, which is I don't know. Think about Twitter, but only for stuff in your neighborhood, but also a lot of boomers that just complain about a lot of stuff. That's kind of the vibe if Karen made a Twitter, but just mostly Karens. Either way, though, this person just kept an eye on it. One, because sometimes it was useful, if there was actually something going on in the neighborhood they needed to be aware of, but also mainly because it was entertaining. And one day they're checking it and they're like, oh, okay, this is what my neighborhood is slowly becoming, because the latest post that had a ton of traction, a ton of comments, a bunch of people talking about it, was a guy who had come outside to start his car and go to work and had found it smashed. The windshield had been destroyed. There was a big dent in the hood. It's pretty messed up. If you didn't know any better, then you would think somebody took a sledgehammer to this thing and just went crazy. But the person in their description of the picture starts explaining, and in the picture itself, that somebody had taken a bunch of cantaloupes and just pelted his car angrily. And I didn't realize cantaloupes could do that much damage, Now I realize why Fruit Ninja was so angry. Those things could mess you up. I bet you as a child he lost his mother to a falling watermelon, and ever since he was trying to avenge them. Either way, somebody in the neighborhood had gotten pissed off at this guy, decided that they were going to destroy his car, but couldn't do it normally, wanted to use cantaloupes. Maybe because they thought it would be impossible to trace them back. And so they start laughing at this post, and then they realize there's a bunch of comments. So they go down to the comments, and the person, the mastermind, the evil genius behind the cantaloupe posting, hadn't been known at first. A bunch of people were guessing, asking if he had beef with anyone. He was like, no, not really. But the absolute genius responsible decided to expose himself, and I don't really understand why this happens so much on social media nowadays. Between rap music and like people's ability to post on Instagram and Twitter, people snitch on themselves. The guy, this old man, by the way, we're talking like a male Karen, probably wearing some Oakleys and an Under Armour shirt, cargo shorts, the whole shebang. In the comments started saying that he was the guy who had done it because he had read somehow that it's more disrespectful to destroy someone's belongings with food. I don't know where he was reading that. If anyone knows, let me know, because it sounds insanely stupid, especially because destroying someone's car just is a felony. I'm pretty sure across the board, it's like a certain amount of damage done to someone's stuff, but shattering a windshield, breaking all of the stuff, denting the hood, whether it's with melons or a hammer, it still makes it illegal. But this absolute genius had decided to hop right on Nextdoor and just admit it, saying that he was mad at the guy because he wasn't mowing his lawn enough. Oh yeah, that makes total sense, bro. Someone's lawn's a little bit too long, grass getting a little bit unruly. Just start destroying their possessions. That'll make them definitely focused on that. If my lawn was a little bit long and someone started attacking my house, I guarantee you I would be a lot more focused on making sure my house was safe versus the agriculture out front. Obviously, a bunch of other people in the comments had told him that he was nuts for that and also pointed out that what he had done was illegal, so he had deleted his comment. Thankfully, a bunch of people had screenshotted it, so they start posting his comments in the comments. The guy who had originally posted about his car being stolen was like, oh yeah, I guess that guy does hate me because I didn't cut my grass enough, so what do I do now? Should I call the cops? Another guy who lives in the neighborhood who was a cop ends up going over there. The guy gets arrested. He does get released, like he ends up on like probation where you have to check in with the guy and whatnot, gets a huge fine, has to pay for everything. And most importantly, is a huge laughing stock. Like to this day on the Nextdoor chat, people just are posting like memes about cantaloupes and broken cars. And you'd think he'd be ashamed to just delete his account, but no, he's like so boomer, he just still wants to argue with them. So every time they make a meme about it, he's like, this is not funny. It was a very hard time for me and my family. Yeah, no one's denying that, bro. You got arrested, and I'm sure when you were trying to explain it to people and you said, I got really mad at a guy and destroyed his car with a cantaloupe, why would you do that, was one of the questions they asked, followed by, yeah, you're kind of a moron. I don't know. Overall, just don't commit crime, especially on your neighbors. And if you are going to commit crime on your neighbors, which you should not do, don't go admit it on social media, especially to the person. Yeah, it was so sick when I stole that guy's car. Like, you just text it to the person whose car you stole. Don't steal cars, but really don't do that. You're just being a moron. All over some grass, bro. What is up with, like, old men and being obsessed with grass? I don't get it, dude. You would think that their life literally depended on the state of their grass. You don't understand, Deborah. If I don't have the best lawn in the neighborhood, I lose my manhood. So the next story is semi-lawn related, but has nothing to do with the last neighborhood that we talked about. This guy who sent this to me has his own business where he like cuts people's grass. He has a bunch of lawns that he does, neighborhoods that he does, and he got hired by this guy to cut his grass once every 2 weeks. Pretty standard, most people do like once a month, once every 2 weeks, so he's over there and has no issue, and he's been doing it for a few months, and one day he's over there mowing the grass. And because he worked alone, he had these like headphones that drowned out the sound of the lawnmower because it's really loud and he could listen to podcasts. But he's mowing, minding his business, and he looks up and he sees a guy that's not the homeowner, but he had seen around the neighborhood a few times, like frantically waving, looking like he's having some huge type of emergency. So he turns off the mower, takes off his headphones, and is like, is everything okay? What's wrong? And the guy says, nothing's wrong, I just need to talk to you. Okay, nothing's wrong. It's such an emergency that you're acting like it's an emergency and you have to interrupt me doing my job. So he says, all right, what is it?
And the guy's like, who gave you permission to mow this lawn? And he's a little bit confused because he had talked to the owner of this house quite a few times, and it's not this guy. So he doesn't know, A, why this guy cares who gave him permission because it's not his house, and B, why he's asking because he's not the owner of the house. Like, why do you care and why do you even have a right to know? So he tells him, oh, the owner hired me to cut the grass. I do it, it's like a service, you know? Thinking maybe he like misunderstood the guy's question and he's trying to hire him as well. And he says, well, I live next door. Okay, cool, good for you. And I don't like this sound. All right, well, I don't really know what to do about it. Well, maybe just turn down the sound on the lawnmower. What are you talking about, bro? Turn down the sound on the lawnmower? That's not how it works. It's making noise because that's how loud the engine is to operate it. It's not a speaker in there. You think they would have the speaker that loud on the lawnmower? And it's also like 11 a.m. on a Wednesday. It's not like it's early in the morning on a weekend. It's not like it's late at night. It's a perfect time to make noise. So he kind of tells the guy like, yeah, I can't do that. I'm just going to finish and then I'll be done. Well, when I mow my lawn, it's not that loud. And he's kind of confused. And he's like, well, do you use a push mower? No, I use one that looks like that. Well, then it's probably just as loud. And he's like, yeah, well, other people aren't working when I mow my lawn. And the guy says, look, guy, I'm sorry if you work from home, but you interrupting me is going to make me take a lot longer to cut this. Whereas if you would have left me alone, I probably would have been done by now. Like, I would have been out of your hair. You could have been on your conference call with no background noise, but you came over here to have this argument. I don't need your permission to cut this lawn. Well, I'm the neighbor, so you need to get my permission too. And he's looking at the guy like, no, I don't, man. That's not how it works. So he asked the guy a hypothetical question. So do you have to get this guy's permission to do anything at your house? And he's like, no, of course not. Okay, so then why would I need to get your permission to cut his lawn? And the guy says, because I'm the neighbor, as if it's making any sense. It's almost like he was so dumb that he was realizing it was illogical, but his brain couldn't put the two pieces together, so he just kept doubling down. And eventually the lawn guy realizes that the argument is fruitless. This guy is literally going to sit here and argue with him till the end of time. So he does what anyone would do in that situation, puts his headphones back on, tells the guy to back up. He does. He starts the lawnmower and keeps mowing. And so now he can't even hear the guy. He has his headphones on, he's listening to a podcast, there's the sound of the lawnmower over the top. But the guy, for the next 20 minutes he's mowing the lawn, is just standing there screaming into the air. Literally talking to himself because this guy can't hear him at all. And every time he looks up and the guy is waving at him, he looks at him and says, I can't hear you. But he doesn't leave. He just keeps saying stuff to the void, thinking that someone can hear him. And so finally he finishes, he rolls over to his trailer, he drives the lawnmower up onto the back, takes his headphones off finally, and he hears the guy's still going. So he looks at him and just asks him, dude, you're still going? And the neighbor looks all pissed off and says, yes, haven't you been listening this entire time? And the guy mowing the lawn literally starts laughing at him and is like, no, I haven't been for a very long time. I haven't heard any of this. And the neighbor is embarrassed, but starts trying to flip it and says that he was just trying to waste his time and that was very rude of him and he's going to report him for being unprofessional to his boss. Keep in mind, he's talking to the owner of the company. So he just handed him a card and said, you're more than welcome to call my boss whenever you see fit. You have a good day, sir. And left. But I love how in that guy's mind, that was a great use of his day. You were on a call, you needed to get rid of the background noise. You went out there to yell at him, and then spent 30 minutes screaming at a guy who wasn't listening while the entire neighborhood was just watching you just go ballistic on a lawnmower. The fact that he couldn't hear him at all and he took off his headphones and he asked him if he had been listening at all, that just adds insult to injury. He thought he was giving some huge motivational speech, bro. Really thought he was a basketball coach from a Disney movie at halftime getting people hyped up. Nah, you were just talking to yourself with extra steps. All right, this one's funny, but it requires a little bit of backstory. The person that sent this in to me doesn't have a normal Saturday, Sunday weekend. They have Wednesday, Thursday off, and they work 100% online from home. So they can kind of wear whatever they want. They're always in sweats and whatnot. But that's the benefit of the job. If you don't have to dress up for work, I don't know why you would. Could you imagine, like, you work from home, you never have to Zoom? There is no dress code, you just put a suit on at 7 a.m. because you like it? I would think you're a little bit of a psychopath. He lives in an apartment building, though, and he goes to the gym in the apartment building to get his workout on every day because he keeps it consistent. Good for you. I wish I had that type of follow-through. I can only upload every day, not work out. Anyways, he's at the gym and there's this old man on the treadmill who keeps giving him dirty looks. And he's not sure why. He had seen the guy around before but never interacted with them. So finally, after he's been staring for a while, he just smiles at him and says, "How's your day?" And the old man, clearly already grumpy, just kinda goes back and says, "Why aren't you at work? You're too young to be retired." Which, wouldn't you look stupid if the guy said, "Yeah, I made a company and sold it for $20 billion when I was younger. I am retired." And even if he's not retired, it's none of your business. So he kinda tries to reply nicely and says, "Oh, I work from home and this is my day off." "Why are you lying? It can't be your day off. It's a weekday." "Yeah, well, my company kind of lets us pick our days off, and I picked these 2 days because I like it better that way, because I like to have my days off during the week when everyone else is working, so stuff's a lot less busy." "That's dumb. No boss would ever do that. You're lying. You're unemployed. I bet you don't even live in this apartment complex." And he starts saying to him, "No, I work from home. I work from home. So, it's nice. I don't really care what my days off are because I work from here all the time." And now that he's added the work from home element, this old guy is even more confused. You would think after the last 2 years, Grandpa would have heard of working from home and Zoom, considering everyone and their mom has at least had to interact with it a little bit. But he was acting like someone from the medieval times that had been brought to modern times and given an iPad. Just, what? Anyways, the guy starts laughing because he just can't believe that this old man doesn't understand working from home or that people don't always have Saturday and Sunday off. And as soon as he starts laughing, the old man is like, "See, I knew you were lying. If you weren't lying, you wouldn't be laughing right now." And now he's getting annoyed, so his nicety is wearing off. He's not going to try to respect this old guy anymore because he's just being rude. So he says, "Yeah, I'm laughing at how dumb you are." And the old man is like, "Well, you're never going to get a job if you have that attitude towards your elders. Why would anyone hire someone with that attitude?" And he's like, "Man, I don't know. I don't have a job, remember? How would I know how to get hired?" And the old man is like, "I don't understand how you afford to live in this apartment complex, but I'm telling you, when mom and dad's money runs out or something and you have to move out, it's going to be such a good day for me. You kids today don't want to work hard. You just want to sit back and relax all the time, and that's not the way the world works." Which, obviously is not the way the world works, but saying you want someone to get evicted and kicked out seems a little unfair. And even then, he does have a job. Just because you can't understand someone's job doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? Imagine someone just saying that a garbage man doesn't have a job because they don't believe that's a job. That's kind of what's going on right now. Just because you can't comprehend it doesn't mean it exists. So he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. I live here. You have to deal with it. And the old man says that he feels uncomfortable working out in the presence of someone so uncivilized and leaves the gym. And so the subscriber who sent this to me finished his workout. But when he leaves, he sees the old guy is in the office where the property managers are. And he walks out and he sees him point at him. And he clearly had gone in there to try to report that there was a strange man in the gym. And the property manager waved at him because they knew each other and he waved back. And the old man's face just contorted as if he sniffed the smelliest fart of all time. But that was the end of that. I don't know. I feel like these old people, they get to retirement and they don't want to enjoy it, man. My grandma was dope, dude. She lived a long time, and the entire time she was vibing. She didn't really let stuff get to her. If she did, she was funny about it. Just relax, man. Just relax. Life is not that deep all the time. I promise. People can have days off other than Saturday and Sunday, Grandpa. And this last one is short. This actually happened to not my friend, but a friend of my friend. He just bought this old farmhouse, right? And he's been renovating it, and it was the first time that he was staying there. And he had just bought some new locks and locked up this weird entrance to the basement on the left-hand side of the house. And at around 3 a.m., he thought he heard some rattling, but whatever. It didn't really wake him up. It was just something he heard of. So the next morning he goes to look, and it does kind of look like the door's been messed with a little bit. So he takes the lock off and he opens it, and the basement is disconnected from the house. Like, you can't get into it other from this entrance on the side of the house. And so he goes down the stairs and he realizes what he was probably hearing is whoever had been living in the basement, because there's clearly a little bit of a squatter setup down there. So someone had been living in the basement of this old farmhouse, probably didn't realize that someone had bought it, and had come last night to collect their stuff or come inside only to find it locked. So he set up some cameras and left it unlocked the next night, and sure enough, a guy had gone in, got a bunch of stuff and left, but now he's super paranoid because he's just worried that the guy's gonna come back. What if he feels like it's his house? And I was telling my friend that, you gotta tell him to move, bro. This is 100% straight out of a horror movie. If he stays there, it's gonna be cursed. He's gonna come back, steal his identity. I can't say that for sure. I just feel like if you find out someone's been secretly living in the basement of a house you just bought and they leave after you, you're always going to be worried about them coming back, dude. I'm shocked the previous owners didn't know. It must have not been lived in for a while. But that's my absolute worst nightmare. Buying a house, finding out someone's been secretly living in the attic. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. Before we get too into it, I would appreciate y'all going ahead and commenting down below if you want more of these. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So, I had a string of issues with Mr. Sauerkraut Kid for a bit, and then after that, we kind of avoided each other. He avoided me, I avoided him, and it kind of worked out well. I never had to deal with his issues, I never had to smell him anymore. It was kind of like I was walking on cloud 9. And 2 years later, I had started getting into skateboarding, and I was spending a lot more time at the skate park. And I had gotten to the point where I knew most of the people that were there regularly. So there was a group of 3 kids who would come skate together, there were some older guys who would come skate together. And we all just kind of knew the flow of the park, and everybody would just kind of do their thing, stay out of everyone's way, and it was a very chill vibe. I know sometimes seems like skate parks in these videos are nuts. It's not. 99.999% of the time, it's really cool. One day, though, I'm there and I'm just minding my business in the corner of the skate park, and the corner I'm in is kind of behind the entrance. The way it goes is you come in the entrance and then the fence goes deeper to the left. So most of the time when people come in, they wouldn't look in that corner because it was just kind of out of the way. So I see this guy skate in and he kind of looks familiar. And I realized that it's Sauerkraut Kid just because at this point I had had so many issues with him. I probably could have picked him out of a crowd if there was a lineup. That's him. That's the Sauerkraut Kid. Get deodorant for him. Stat. I don't know what's going on with those pits, but it's rancid. So I'm at the skate park and he comes in and he doesn't really see me, but he goes in over to where these 2 guys, the 2 of the 3 guys that usually hang out, were skating this rail. And they had been skating it for a while, just minding their business. And this guy doesn't even take time to set up his stuff. He doesn't take time to see what's going on at the park. He skates right up to them and just says, "Move right now." Which I don't think anyone would take very kindly to, but especially if it's someone you don't know and they're just at the skate park trying to boss you around. The 2 guys were not that thrilled by it. And it wasn't a, "Hey man, I'm trying to skate the rail too, is it okay if I skate it?" Or, "Hey, is it cool if I get some time on the rail? I want to skate it now, move." They're not going to respond well to that. I don't think anyone would. Even if you don't skate, if you were walking by something and someone said, "I'm trying to get there, move," I wouldn't blame you for just deciding to be stubborn and standing there. So whatever, these 2 guys, not the type to be talked down to and just insulted for no reason, say that they're not going to move. And then they start being like, "What's your issue, man? We've never even seen you before. Not that it matters, but why would you come up and be rude to us for no reason? You didn't even take the time to ask us to move or anything. What's your issue? Do you really think that's a good way to get people to give you what you want?" Just trying to reason with him. And what they didn't know is that Sauerkraut Kid, did not have the ability to reason. That was out the window. Probably from inhaling his own fumes so much. When you just smell like sauerkraut all the time and it's constantly in your nose, I'm sure eventually it just starts to inhibit your thinking. The only thing on your mind is the kraut, the kraut, the kraut.
But when they say they're not going to move and start trying to reason with them, he just kind of shuts down and folds his arms and says, "He's serious, they better move," which has to be the worst intimidation tactic of all time. I don't know why so many people try to do that. The arm fold makes you look more like a pouty little kid trying to get your way than it does make anyone be like, "Oh no, he really means business, guys." You smell like sauerkraut and now your arms are folded. That's the only difference. If you unfold them, you smell like sauerkraut and your arms are normal. That's it. That's the only thing that changes. But the way he did it was obviously trying to be intimidating. Like, he kind of did it aggressively and said he was serious. And the two kids are not really budging or moving at all because it's just not something that they were interested in. And he's just not intimidating. Sauerkraut Kid had gotten a little bit older over these 2 years, but for whatever reason, it didn't seem like he had been blessed with growing vertically at all. So he was still the same height. These guys were each a solid 1.5 feet taller than him, and he's trying to intimidate them. So they kind of say that they're not going to move, and if he keeps trying to threaten them, then they're going to make him move away from them. And it's not like they were trying to cause an issue. They were not thrilled about the prospect of having to push this guy away. But at the same time, if he's not going to move and just keep causing issues, at some point you got to just get the issue away. I'm not advocating violence, all right? I'm just saying, if someone's in your way saying they're not going to move and they're not going to let you leave, they're impeding your ability to move around, and you can probably push them out of the way and keep moving. So they say they're not going to move again, and his response, arms still folded, is to go, "I'm going to teach you guys a lesson." And he unfolds his arm, reaches down for his skateboard. And for those of you that skate, he mall grabs it by the back truck. But for those of you that don't, that's when you take your hand and you wrap it around the metal trucks on the bottom, and he lifts it up and he starts pulling it back. And I can tell by the way he's pulling it back, it looks like he's about to use the skateboard as a weapon and hit them. And if you want to get into a fight at the skate park, it's already kind of dumb. But it's really, really dangerous to smack somebody with a skateboard. You're not going to teach them a lesson. You're probably going to give them a massive concussion. What is that, dude? Oh, you guys don't want to move and let me skate right here? I'm going to smack you with a wooden board with metal attached to it. Some people that skate are like, "Oh, I could smack anyone with my skateboard." I don't know, man. You could probably classify that thing as a weapon. If somebody was walking around with a stick that weighed as much as a wooden skateboard with a truck on the end of it, and they said they were going to hit you with it, you wouldn't want to be hit by it. So whatever, Sauerkraut Kid is being real sour, and his arm is coming back with this skateboard, and it just looks like he's about to smack them. And I'm close enough where I have the ability to stop it. So I go over there and I grab the other end of the skateboard. So he's got it back with the truck in his hand. So I grab the other truck as it's coming back and I just pull it out of his hand. It was not some insane James Bond maneuver. I really didn't have to pull that hard. His grip was not that great on it. And he had held it back for so long because he was really weak. So he was struggling to lift it back. So it wasn't hard to kind of pull it out of his hand. But I pull it out of his hand and I'm like, "Dude, what are you doing? You can't smack people with a skateboard." And he turns and it takes him a second, but he recognizes me. And instead of saying "Oh, great, it's you again, I've dealt with you before, you're such a pain, why do you always have to try to get up in my business?" He embraces the anime vibe he's got going on when he was trying to smack people with a skateboard and just looks at me and says, "It's you!" He had really turned me into an anime villain, bro. In his arc, nothing was the same after he didn't get away with stealing my bicycle. "You made my grandma betray me when I stole your bike, and for that, you will pay." Just so angry. And I start trying to reason with him and say, "You can't smack people with skateboards, bro." And I make the mistake of letting go of the skateboard at that point because there's no way he'd be dumb enough to do it again. If I just pulled it out of his hand, he wouldn't try to smack me with the skateboard. But this sauerkraut-smelling dude starts reaching back the skateboard to swing it at me now. Except he's slow again because he's too weak to really do it quickly. So the other two guys that are behind him now, they grab the skateboard and this time they rip it out of his hands and throw it across the skate park. Which might be mean, but we've tried the whole stopping it and giving it back to him thing, and all that did was make him just turn and swing it at the person that just stopped him. So we're not taking chances again. And he turns around and starts trying to fight them after they do that. They're much larger than him, but he's surprisingly good at punching. Sauerkraut Kid had to be tough when you smell like that. He's just punching them, man. And they're larger. They don't really want to hurt him, but they end up having to just push him away and kind of stop him, I guess. I don't know how to explain it. They weren't pinning him down. but they were just pushing him in a way that made it so he had to focus on being pushed and not anything else. And he starts saying that he's really mad and we shouldn't have messed with him because now he's mad. And I don't know why he thought we didn't realize he was mad. If someone starts coming at me trying to swing a skateboard and hit me in the head, I'm gonna know you're mad. I would be really concerned if you weren't mad. Like, that would be some straight up psychopathic behavior. It is some straight up psychopathic behavior, don't get it twisted. But if that was what you did when you were happy, oh, I'm having a great day, I'm gonna go take a hammer around. Like, what's wrong with you, dude? That's some serious weirdness. So he's telling us that he's really mad, and we just keep going, dude, we don't care. You can't hit us with a skateboard. Like, we don't care. I don't know if he was trying to tell us that he's really mad, so we had to go along with it and let him hit us with a skateboard or what, but he just kept repeating it over and over again. And when I say he's mad, that's not just doing it justice. Some people get mad, they start yelling, some people might turn a little bit red. This guy was at that point of anger where he was screaming so hard that, like, his voice box was giving out and making it sound hoarse. When you're going like this! That's how mad he was. And on top of it, as he's screaming, freaking out, he's starting to spit with every word he's saying. Like, all the spit is conglomerating in his mouth and just flying out as he's screaming at us about how mad he is. And so we just keep telling him to relax, and he won't calm down. So we try to go to the other side of the skate park. Just get away from the situation. We're not gonna, like, keep arguing with him if he's just gonna keep getting angrier and spitting. So we go to the other side of the skate park, and we're talking about how weird it is. And he comes back up with his skateboard. And the second he comes around with his skateboard, we are already on alert. He's already tried to hit us with the skateboard. We don't want to be hit with the skateboard. That's not on my bucket list. But he saunters up to us with this skateboard, and we're all just intensely watching him, kind of scared of him. And instead of looking sheepish or embarrassed at all, he seems fine, and he just starts talking. And you would think the thing that has to come out of his mouth if he's gonna come up with this much confidence is, hey, I'm really sorry, that was super out of pocket of me. I don't expect you to forgive me, but just so you guys know, that's not how I usually act. That's the confidence he's walking up with. But that's not what he says. There is no apology. He just starts trying to have, like, a casual conversation about how he was really looking forward to spring break. And yeah, I was looking forward to spring break too, don't get it wrong. I don't think anyone likes going to school when you're younger. But that being said, I wasn't trying to have this conversation with a dude that literally just tried to knock me out with a skateboard. I wouldn't want to have that conversation with most people. It's just kind of small talk, and small talk can be so boring it makes you want to, like, get hit with a skateboard. But I really was not about to have this conversation with someone that I did not like at all. Not only because he had stole my bike before, but now because he had tried to smack me and two friends with skateboards. And so the two guys that I'm standing with look at him and literally say, "What are you doing? Please go away. We're not friends." Like, this whole, hey, I'm gonna come over and make small talk thing, we don't want to do that with you. We are not your friends. We're not gonna be friends. We can't kick you out of the skate park. We get that, you know, that's not what we're about. But don't come talk to us. Like, we want to stay as far away from each other as possible. And that's pretty reasonable. I think if you try to give someone brain damage, they probably won't want to be around you very often. But you would have thought that we just told this kid that he probably had a contagious form of the bubonic plague and we were going to keep him quarantined for the next 87 years in an airtight chamber. Because he just starts saying that there was no reason for us to be that rude. He didn't understand why we were being so small-minded about the situation, and he just didn't really get why we would be so upset about something. It was just a skateboard. It's not like it would have hurt that much anyways. And yeah, a skateboard is not like a baseball bat, but it's basically the same thing. I don't understand what he meant by that, trying to downplay it. I don't want to be hit in the head with anything. Even if it wouldn't hurt as bad as like a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire, it doesn't mean that I would want to be hit in the head with it. Whatever, it wouldn't even have hurt that bad. Dude, I don't care if it's a Nerf bat. I still don't want to get hit in the head. I don't like being hit in the head. It's one of my least favorite places to be hit. If I had to have a list of places I enjoy being hit, none of them are preferable, but head would definitely not be in the top 5. But we're standing there kind of gobsmacked that he's like insulting us and getting angry with us, because if anything, it should be the other way around, right? We were the people that you almost hit in the head. And we all start getting mad, being like, you can't really downplay it. You still tried to hit us in the head with a skateboard. We still don't like you. Like, we don't want to be your friend. And he goes on another rant about how if we don't have the ability to make friends with people that used to be our enemies, like we're never going to go very far in life. Yeah, that's right. If we don't make up with Sauerkraut Kid, then we're not going to go very far in life. Listen, I'm not friends with Sauerkraut Kid to this day. And, while it's not as poppin' as it used to be, my channel's still cool. And I've just got other stuff going on. I don't really feel like I took the L route. I don't feel like I missed out on anything by not being friends with Sauerkraut Kid. When I'm laying in bed at night, I start thinking about cringy things I've done, and it's never, oh my gosh, I should have never not befriended Sauerkraut Kid. I missed out on so many great experiences. He could have shown me how to smell like sauerkraut. That would have changed absolutely everything. We still say that we're not interested, we don't want to really be around him, and he says that he's going to give us one more chance to forgive him. Oh my goodness, could you believe that he was that generous, guys? He's going to give us a chance to forgive him for him trying to hit us with the skateboard. I never thought I would get an opportunity to be a part of something this special. The idea that hundreds of years from now, people are going to talk about this moment in history class as one of the best symbols of human kindness of all time, the chance to forgive Sauerkraut Kid. But I said no. I said no. We all said, no, man, sorry, we are not really interested in being your friend. You can go skate, do whatever you want, but like, we don't want to be your friend. We don't want to hang out. We don't want to vibe. We don't want to skate together. We're not interested. And he looks at us so disappointed, man. Like a parent that just found out that you got all F's on your report card, changed them all to A's to trick them, and then got caught. Like that much disappointment in his eyes. And says that he was really disappointed that we didn't take this time to have some character development. Okay, English teacher, thank you so much. I didn't realize I was a character in a novel. Nothing says I'm the main character like telling other people that they missed out at a chance for some character development. Who are you to say that? Yeah, people do get character development, duh. But to say that me forgiving you would have just added a lot to my life story, you know, who I am as a person, is just so weird. Hey, if you're not subscribed to the channel, you're missing out on a lot of character growth. And that's serious. There is no sarcasm in my voice right now. So we just tell him, okay, we'll lose out on that character growth. We're perfectly fine with that. And he saunters away and gets about 5 feet away before he turns around. But before I say what happens next, I'm going to be annoying. If you guys go press the like button and comment right now, it will help the video do better. And if this video gets 5,000 likes, I will do part 5, all right? But if not, it's not happening. I'm compromising for part 4 today. But he turns around when he gets about 5 feet away from us and says that he doesn't even want to skate anymore. The way that we're acting about his offer to forgive him has just totally taken him out of the mood to skate. Okay, none of us really cared, bro. Like, all right, that's not really my problem. If you're mad that the people you tried to hit with the skateboard won't forgive you and now you don't want to skate, did you expect us to start groveling? No, Sauerkraut Kid, please. Please don't leave. We want you to stay in the mood for skating. Hit us in the head with skateboards. If it makes you want to do an ollie, that's all we care about. So we say we don't care. And he's like, you guys are so rude and inconsiderate. I don't even want to be at this skate park. I'm going to leave. And we say, all right, man, whatever you want to do, like, you're more than welcome to do that. If that's really what your heart desires, then go for it. And he does that thing when people, like, do something as a threat, but they don't actually want to do it, but they have to follow through with it. I'm serious, guys. I'm really gonna leave. I will leave. Like, this is your chance. You can forgive me now, or I will leave. And we're all like, all right, bro, you can leave. Feel free. You are more than welcome to walk right out of there and skate home. And he gives us another little speech about how we should be so embarrassed that we would let someone leave, like the fact that we don't have it in us to get over ourselves and forgive him. We never told him to leave. We never once said, you have to leave or we're going to cause problems. In fact, the entire time he walked up to us, we kept saying, if you just go skate over there, we'll stay over here and like we'll just stay out of each other's way. No issues, no conflict. Let's just like avoid each other. He wouldn't let that happen. He's the one that made up this imaginary standard that if we didn't forgive him, we were interrupting his skating time, which I don't really care about anyways. I don't think we would be unreasonable if we told you to leave, but like it's obviously not our skate park. I don't know. I feel like most people probably would have left or like freaked out at you. So the idea that you were holding us hostage and we were making you leave, no one was making you do anything. But he keeps saying that if we forgive him, he'll stay and skate, and we keep telling him that we don't care, because we didn't care. Nobody that was standing there listening cared. And there were some adults skating on the other side, and he got so annoying saying that we should forgive him that the adults on the other side of the park yelled over, "Just leave, bro, they don't want you here." And we were like, yeah, man. And finally, he ended up leaving. So at least he did leave. Not with much dignity. Literally none at all. He did the absolute most to make it as painful and cringe as humanly possible, but he did dip. Still not really sure why he thought just walking up to us and trying to start a conversation, no apology or anything, was a good idea. Oh, if I just walk up to them and start talking to them about spring break, then they'll forget the fact that I tried to hit him in the head with skateboards. You didn't hit us, bro. Like, we still had all the brain cells. You didn't do the damage that you were intending to do, so you didn't really get away with it whatsoever. I don't know what Sauerkraut Kid was up to. I don't know what he was planning. It seemed like every time I interacted with him, it was just even more cringe than the last. And without further ado, let's hop right into it. Alright, so this first one was sent in to me by a guy that has lived in this neighborhood since he was a baby. His parents already had the house before he was born, so he's just continued living in the house. And for the most part, the neighborhood hadn't changed much. But a new guy had moved in about 3 doors down and had taken it upon himself to make some, interesting, let's just put it that way, design choices with his front yard. He went and took a bunch of like old toilets from the dump, or I don't know where you find old toilets, but imagine a bunch of old toilets, and then he had put them in his yard, and he had filled them with dirt, so there was like plants growing out of the toilet in the top of the toilet. Which, whatever, yeah, it's a funny idea, I get it, you know, you're repurposing a toilet to be a planter. But at the same time, I could understand why maybe your neighbors would not enjoy you having a toilet garden in your front yard. And people were not that hyped about it, and at first, they were kind of like just asking him nicely to maybe move the toilet planters to the backyard, or just a little bit away from the road. And his response to them just kind of nicely asking him to move the toilets to the backyard was to get pissed and say that he was going to make the ugliest house ever. And they weren't demanding that he move the toilets. It's his property. Technically, they can be there. Like, it's not like there was a legal thing they could do. But then he just decides to paint his house. And you'd think he'd, like, hire a company to do it. No. He goes, gets as many neon different types of spray paint you could imagine, and just starts going in on his house. So now, not only is there a toilet garden out front, but the house is just like, it looks like somebody bought a bunch of highlighters, left them in their pockets, and then put their pants in the dryer. It's just a train wreck. Like, it looks just almost like a Jason Pollock painting. It's not that great. And so people then start being like, all right, dude, you really gotta stop. What you're doing is gonna hurt the neighborhood. Come on, like, can't you just be reasonable and not make your house look like this? And he decided that to teach them a lesson now, not only for asking him to move the toilets, but to maybe paint his house a normal color, that he was gonna not let anyone sleep anymore. If you were near his house, then you were in for a very rough time if you wanted to enjoy sleeping. He put spotlights on his house that like shine outward, and they basically shined into people's windows, so it was just bright all night. And then they couldn't really prove this, but it seemed like every hour he would go out and blow a dog whistle, so every dog would lose their mind. And it got to the point where people were like, dude, my neighbor is straight up waging psychological warfare on me because I don't want to live next to the toilet garden. And it seemed like the more people asked him to relax, the worse he would make it. He started adding more lights. He started adding things that would make noise. And he clearly had way too much time on his hands because you're not allowed to like make loud noises past a certain hour. So he would make a ton of noise and then listen on the police scanner because people would call the cops and he would turn it all off. So when the cops come, there's nothing there and they're like confused, and he's telling them that the neighborhood's crazy and they all hate him. And they're still going through this. Like, to this day, he's still having all these noise-making machines and all the lights. Thankfully, the person that sent this to me is 3 doors down, so it's affected them a little bit. but not as bad as it would be to live next door to the guy. I feel like this is the type of person that's just wanting to be angry with the world. Like, you know what you're doing if you put a bunch of toilets in your front yard. I'm all for freedom. I love it, man. Like, hey, freedom is the greatest, but you know your neighbors are not going to like that, and then to start a war with them over it, it kind of seems like you might have been wanting the war in the first place. I'm just saying, this guy seems like he wanted trouble when he moved into the neighborhood. Okay, so this next one was sent in to me by somebody that had just moved into a duplex. And they happen to be on the downstairs unit, which is unfortunate because you're just always going to hear the person above you. Even if it's the quietest person of all time, it's just the reality of living beneath someone is there's going to be times where they make a ton of noise. But for whatever reason, the person that lived above him must have just been a vampire who was only allowed to make noise at night and it was their passion. Like, straight up, he started wondering if the guy had been cursed to just live eternally trying to eat people or whatever. He was so loud every single night. It was like he was throwing a rave in his apartment in between the hours of like 11 p.m. and 4 p.m. to the point where he can't sleep because it's just loud music. It sounds like there's a crowd of 300 people up there. And it's not just a weekend. It's not like a Friday one crazy party. It's every single night. It was like throwing parties in his apartment was literally his job somehow. So one night, he had had enough. He hadn't been able to sleep in like a week, and he goes up to confront him, and he pounds on the door all angrily, you know, in his head, he's worked himself up. He's like, I can't believe this guy thinks that it's okay to just not let anyone sleep. And all of a sudden, he can hear this huge party on the other side. It goes silent. He sees like all the lights turn off and the door kind of cracks open. And you know, like those chains that people have, it opens just that much where you can't see in very far. And everything's dark now, like all the lights are off and it's silent. And no one's saying anything. He can just kind of see his neighbor's face like through that little crack in the door. And he says, hey man, I'm your downstairs neighbor, and I just want to know if you can keep it down because you're really, really loud. Like, I can't sleep. You're making such a racket. You do it every single night. I wouldn't even care if it was every now and then, but like, this is out of control. And the guy looks at him, looks him up and down, and then hisses. And when he hisses at him, he like shows his teeth. And sure enough, the guy had gotten, you know that dental thing where you can have like fangs put in where your teeth are sharp? This guy had gone to a dentist and said, sir, please turn me into a real vampire. Give me those sharp teeth. So the door closes and all of a sudden it goes loud again. And he's just standing there like, well, that was not how I expected that to go. I expected him to at least hear me out or something. Plus, you know, even if your neighbor's gonna be a jerk about making noise, you think he would at least be like, get lost, I'm not gonna do anything. You don't expect another human to hiss at you, showing off that they have fangs and then slam the door. Like, what is this? What we do in the shadows, dude? Like an energy vampire is gonna pop up? No, thank you. You don't want that. So he goes downstairs, tries to go to bed, finally ends up falling asleep, and he had the day off the next day, so he sleeps in. And he wakes up, goes to his car, goes grocery shopping, comes back, and he realizes that there's like a note on his door. And he looks at it, and the note says that I'm a creature of the night and will not be tamed. Do not disturb me while I partake in my vampire ways. Next time I will not be so, like, courteous to your issues. And now he's starting to get scared because he's like, oh, this dude actually thinks he's a vampire. You know, at first he thought it was maybe a joke. He's just really committed to being like a Hot Topic guy. No, this guy is leaving letters being like, don't disturb me at night or I will become an angry vampire. Like, you don't want to live under somebody that nuts. So he decides that he's going to leave it alone. Like, yeah, it sucks to live underneath this guy. He hates that he's making noise. But the second somebody starts leaving threatening letters being like, I'm actually a vampiric demon and you don't want to mess with me or you're gonna regret it. Yeah, they're not a vampire. But do you want to find out what someone crazy enough to think they're a vampiric demon will do to make you regret messing with them? Because I don't. It just seems like something I don't need to cross off the bucket list. If somebody's like, hey, I'm really nuts, you don't want to go start a bunch of beef with them. So whatever, he's just kind of like avoided it because he doesn't want to end up in a situation where he's in a true crime documentary. And he hasn't interacted with them since, but sure enough, every night still, it's like this guy is throwing a rave in his apartment, you know. And there's only 2 units, so it's not even like he can team up with everybody else in the building because they're all hearing it too. It's literally him and the other guy. So if he says something to the landlord, it's 100% obvious who snitched. And do you really want to be on the crap list of the guy who really thinks he's a vampire? And what's wild is he's kind of just been paying more attention since he realized the guy actually thinks he's a vampire, to be like, all right, well, how committed is he to this? Like, is this just something he does when, he's trying to scare people or what? And the dude straight up just does not come outside during the day. He has never seen him outside during the day. The only time he goes outside is night. And sure enough, there's just always a party there. But what's really weird about that is there's never like a huge group of cars. It's never like a huge sign that there's a bunch of people there. So he doesn't know if this guy's just running in circles, making it sound like there's a bunch of people there, or if a bunch of bats are flying into the attic. Obviously not really vampires, but he just does not really know what's going on. Whatever it is, it freaked him out, and he's just gonna leave it alone. And he's looking for another place to live, which is just probably your best bet at that point. Like, I feel like you don't want to live under the vampiric demon. Because even if they're lying, like, you do really want to live under the guy who thinks he's a vampiric demon. Good luck, though, man. Best of luck. I feel like even if I was a vampire, partying every night would get kind of exhausting. Every night, you never want to have a night to just relax, watch some TV. Maybe that's the point of immortality, is you're kind of like, whatever, I'm just going to do whatever I want all the time because there's no consequences. But goodness, after like a week of partying, I'm sure I would literally be like, I feel like garbage. I don't even want to do anything else. All right, so this next one was sent in to me by a guy who lives in a dorm room. And I don't know what it is about dorm rooms, but I feel like that's the worst roommates that I get sent on a regular basis. And the guy on the other side of the wall, who doesn't live in the dorm with them, but is in the dorm next to them, has some anger issues. The first few weeks of school, everything was fine, and then all of a sudden at 8 p.m. one day, this guy just starts raging. Here's him screaming about how, like, everyone else is hacking because there's no way he would actually lose. The only way he was going to be able to lose at this game is if everyone was cheating. And the guy's just kind of, like, letting him rage, doesn't want to go over there and say anything, and figures he'll tire himself out pretty quick. Everyone's gotten mad at a video game before, and, like, I don't know, personally, even if I get mad at a video game, it's hard to stay really mad at a video game. Like, I'm not going to think about it later. But this guy spends the next, 25 minutes just raging, hitting on the wall, screaming that this game is so unfair and he'll just uninstall it. To the point where he's like, dude, this guy just needs to really not play this game. Like, usually when you tell someone to uninstall, you're trying to talk trash. But if you're letting a game affect you so much that you're raging, punching the wall in your dorm room for half an hour, you probably just shouldn't. Whatever, after the 25 minutes though, he quiets down, thinks there's no way he'll get that mad again. So he goes to bed, and about 3 a.m., he starts hearing the same rage on the other side of the wall. And it's one thing to hear, somebody you live next to freaking out at 3 p.m. It's still not great, but I guess you're allowed to make noise. If you start freaking out banging on the wall in a dorm room at 3 a.m., it's perfectly okay for the people that live next to you to get pissed off. So this time, when it wakes him up, he gets annoyed, because obviously you don't want to be woken up by somebody raging at a video game. So he gets up and walks out of his dorm and starts banging on their door. And it goes quiet, and he's waiting for someone to come answer the door, and he's just kind of sitting there, waiting, and no one comes to answer. It's almost like the guy realized that someone was coming to bang on the door to tell him to be quiet, and he was too afraid to come answer it. So after he's waiting for a while, he decides he's gonna go back to bed. And so he goes back into his room, and he hears the guy on the other side of the wall, still saying some stuff about video games. And because he can hear this guy talking, he knows he's going to be able to hear him. So he just kind of loudly says that, hey man, you need to shut up. And if I wake up at 3 a.m. again because you're mad at a stupid video game, we're going to have some problems. And it's I'm not going to like you, and I'm just going to go out of my way to be as annoying as humanly possible. I don't care if you rage, but you can't wake people up about your video games. And after that, dude, it was like he was afraid of confrontation, because he would rage and whatnot, but as soon as nighttime hit, he would go quiet. Thankfully, he learned his lesson. But that was not a very fun wake-up call, dude. You're just, what do people dream about these days? I don't know, you're having a great dream about driving a Bugatti down the road. All of a sudden, you get a wake-up call because some guy can't take Fall Guys not seriously and is freaking out because everyone's hacking to try to take away his Fall Guy wins. You get woken up from your slumber because somebody is bad at, like, Wii bowling. That's just the worst. I feel like dorm stories are the things I get the most often, and I don't know if it's just because, like, it's the first time people get freedom, so they don't know how to act, or if people who are going to college these days are just a little bit more entitled. Not every dorm is like this, but goodness gracious, at least twice a week, someone's like, oh, I live in a dorm and my roommate is basically psycho. Alright, so the person who sent this into me was out in front of their house skateboarding one day, and most cars would just kind of come by at like 25 miles per hour. I feel like that's the generic speed limit in most neighborhoods, and it makes sense, especially if there's like people in the road. There's no reason to speed in a neighborhood. And on top of it, when you see someone in the road, like, you should go extra slow. But he's out in front of his house skating, and this minivan comes flying around the corner going like 45. So he yells out, slow down, as it drives by, and the minivan, like, slams on the brakes, and it goes past him a little bit. It throws into reverse and reverses back up towards him, and he gets out of the way because, like, it almost hits him. And the door opens up, and this Karen jumps out of the car. And, like, the speed with which she reversed and jumped out of the car, it was almost like she had done this before. She had dismounted this minivan many of time. And she says, what did you just say to me? And he's like, I said slow down. There's no need to be speeding. You almost hit me. And Karen starts going off about how, like, she bets that this guy can't even drive, so who does he think he is to tell them to slow down? And the guy's response is just like, okay, even if I can't drive because I'm too young to have my license, I still know if you're going too fast. It doesn't mean that I can't tell you not to speed when I'm out in the road and you almost hit me. It doesn't take a genius to know if someone's going 45 in a 25. It's really obvious if someone is going too fast. And her response to him saying that is like, well, why are you even out in the road? It would have been your fault if I hit you. And, like, I don't really think that's how it works in a residential neighborhood. If you're speeding and you hit somebody, I don't think that's a very good excuse. Like, you can't go to court and be like, yeah, sure, I was going 45 in a 25, but why was someone out in the road in front of their house? Like, I feel like you're allowed to ride your bike in the road in front of your house. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I don't know. It wouldn't have been an issue if you weren't going that fast. And so this guy, trying to be responsible and, like, just get this lady to leave at this point, says, look, I'm just saying, slow down, because there's a lot of people around here like me and my friends that are just out in front of their house riding skateboards or whatever, and I just don't want anyone to get hit. He's trying to be the mature one, and that's a reasonable thing to say. Like, okay, look, whatever. Yeah, I guess you can speed if you want. And she starts going off saying, well, if she wants to speed, that's her choice, and she doesn't need to listen to anything he says. And he's like, yeah, I guess you don't have to listen to anything I say. That's true. I never said that I was king of the road. And she's like, yeah, you're not king of the road. And she goes, hops back in her minivan, and goes to, like, very aggressively peel out of there. You can hear her foot, like, stomp the gas. The only issue was she had been in reverse last time she had, like, pulled up. Remember, she reversed back. And she had forgotten that she was in reverse. So when she slams her foot down on the gas, instead of going forward and peeling out of there, she goes backwards. And for whatever reason, she cuts the wheel. And so she goes flying off the side of the road into a parked car that was, like, right there. And of course, the irony of all of this happening right after she said she can do what she wants and he can't drive, so he has no right to say that they shouldn't be speeding. Like, it was just a very ironic situation. So the person that sent this to me starts laughing at it because that's almost straight out of a comedy movie. Someone starts talking about how great of a driver they are and then forget their car's in reverse. That's a pretty simple thing that you should double check before you go slamming on the gas, especially if you're just telling someone to shut up and not tell you how to drive. So he's laughing, the person who was driving the car's pissed, so Karen gets out and starts trying to say somehow that this entire accident is his fault, and because he was laughing at her, she was going to find a way to make him liable, and, like, the insurance was gonna blame him somehow. I don't think insurance companies do that, especially if you say, hey, I forgot I was in reverse and crashed into a car. They're gonna be like, that's on you, we're not covering anything. And they especially wouldn't care if you were like, no, you don't understand. Someone laughed right after. They would be like, okay, what about it? We're not going to go sue the person that laughed at you and say it's their fault. So she's screaming about how it's all his fault and she's going to find a way to blame him. And the person whose car it was comes outside and starts being like, dude, you hit my car. And so the kid who sent this to me, like, obviously this is a little bit ago. He's an adult now. He goes inside because he just didn't know what to do. Now he knows you're supposed to stay and make a statement or whatever, but he just didn't want to deal with it. So he went inside, and after they exchanged insurance information or whatever, the lady came over and started knocking on the door, yelling that he was a bad kid and she wanted to talk to his parents to let them know how disappointed they should be. Yeah, because he said don't speed, and you got your ego bruised, and then proceeded to forget you were in reverse and crash into a car. I don't really understand how that's his fault. But whatever, she tried to, get a response. No one responded. And after that, she ended up leaving. And I feel it's one thing to be a bad driver, okay? But it's one thing to not realize you're a bad driver. I feel like you should know if you're in reverse, drive, park, neutral. That's something you should check before you just start slamming on the gas. That's an obvious one. And if you're not paying attention to that, then you really should not be driving too fast. Speeding is always against the law, if someone catches you, right? But you really should not be speeding if you don't even know if your car's in reverse or not. I feel like that is just a given. Don't be flying around if you can't even tell which way your car's gonna go. But what made it even funnier is because she lived in his neighborhood, he would see her after that and she would always just avoid eye contact and drive by slowly. So she did learn not to speed. It just took accidentally crashing into a car because she forgot which way the car was going to go.
And today I've got a super cool story time that was sent in to me, but I've never had a story like this sent in. It involves a rich kid being destroyed, but not standard. Dude works in an investment bank, so, a little bit higher stakes on what's going on. Either way, I thought it would be something you guys would enjoy, so that's what we're going to be talking about. So before we get into it, be sure to press the like button, otherwise... no joke, no scam, GTA 6 will never come out. Yeah, that's right, I'm holding it hostage, so press the like button and let's go. Oh, and here's the comment of the day. Don't worry, I didn't forget. I forgot for a bit, but not anymore. Alright, so as I said, the guy that sent this in to me works at an investment bank, and he's not high up or anything. He's at the very bottom of the totem pole, but technically his title is asset manager, so he's got a little bit of experience managing the stocks. Mostly handling 401k accounts for companies, because I guess that's a good job for new people because there's a ton of regulations. You really have to stick to the guidelines. So you really can't go lose a bunch of money doing stupid stock stuff because you have to have certain amounts of X, X, and Y. So he had been doing that for a while and he was enjoying it, and he understood that you gotta work your way up, it just is what it is. It was a lot of work, but he saw that eventually if you keep going and you get to the good part, you make a lot of money. And one day he's sitting in his office and his boss comes in and he seems kind of shy, and his boss is not a shy guy. Usually you'd be thinking to yourself, please shut up, if he was standing there talking to you, because it was just an endless stream of words. And he finally comes clean and he's like, all right, my boss, so the guy above him, wants him to hire his kid. And he was going to be starting the next day, and, he was wondering if he would train him. And the guy's standing there bro, I'm handling the accounts that you told me are so easy, anyone couldn't mess it up. A baby could manage this account, and you want me to train your boss's kid? And he's like, yeah, I know you're new, but I just think you'll probably be the best at it, because he doesn't have a whole lot of education about it. He's just dipping his toe in. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with wanting to try something before you dedicate your life to it. That's a perfectly reasonable position. Okay, make sure you like something before you dedicate yourself to it. But I feel investment banking isn't really one of those things that you can kind of dip your toe in the kiddie pool on. I feel that topic, you either dive in or you don't. In my mind, it's one of those topics, it's law or being a doctor or something that takes a ton of knowledge, doctorate level stuff, being a professor. In order to get to that level, you can't really just be I want to try being a professor for a week. Well, no, you have to have years and years of knowledge in order to know what they know. But whatever, he's yeah, sure, if you really want me to do it, fine. I can train him, I guess. And so his boss is pretty grateful. He's like, thank you. He's going to be cool. Like, I promise it's going to be fine. And he's just not really knowing what to expect. He was going in with no expectations because that way there's no way to be like dramatically disappointed. This could go good. This could go bad. Like, that's the attitude to have in a situation similar to this one. And you would think that if he had gone out of his way to like set up this job, even if his dad is the boss, like if he had gone out of his way to apply himself, and maybe learn a little bit, he would come in willing to learn even more. I feel like if it's your first day in a job in an industry you know nothing about, like you should just be trying to learn as much as humanly possible. Because you're not an expert. There's a reason you're like an intern here. It's not because you're some stock trading genius. This guy hasn't been to school for finance. He has no like investing experience outside of what he's done on Robinhood, which sure is experience, but not really the same thing as like managing multiple millions of dollars in portfolios for companies. Like it's just not the same thing. Well, the guy comes in, and I'm going to name him Eric for this story. That's not his name, but I just feel like naming him Eric. And Eric comes in and is off the rip super polite to the guy's boss. He's like, wow, thank you so much for this opportunity. This is going to be great. He introduces him to Mark, which is the name of the subscriber. And he's like, Mark knows a lot. He just started here, so he's probably going to be good at explaining things that he wishes would have been explained a little bit better to him. So you guys are going to be working together. And Eric is like, oh, it's so great to meet you. I'm so excited to work together. And as soon as the boss walks away, it's like Eric gets possessed by a demon, and he just snaps at him. Listen, man, I've watched tons of investing videos on YouTube, so I don't need any training, okay? I just want you to stay out of my way and let me do what I have to do. My goal is to get in and take over this company in a year. Like, bro is acting like he's straight out of Wolf of Wall Street, I don't think he watched that movie to the end where they go to jail. Like, he's just coming in, I don't need any training. I'm not saying that there's not a lot of like knowledge on YouTube. You can learn about a lot of stuff on YouTube. But I do feel like, once again, investment banking is one of those things that like YouTube videos doesn't count as real world experience. Imagine there's a medical emergency and the guy pulls up and he's like, all right, guys, don't worry. I've watched a YouTube video on how to perform a lobotomy. And they're like, dude, his ankle is broken. Why would you need to do brain surgery? You can learn a lot. You can have a lot of real world experience. And some people are geniuses and they don't need it. But that's not this situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're a savant and you're just out there trading stocks on your own and you're a multi-billionaire, none of this applies to you because you're a 1 in a bajillion chance. You're like the Taylor Swift of the investing world. But whatever, he just gets really snappy acting like he knows it all. And Mark doesn't really know how to react to this, so he tries to nicely tell him, like, I'm glad you've learned about this a little bit, and I had a bunch of previous knowledge coming in too, but there's a lot of stuff that you probably don't know about that we have to kind of go over, like there's a lot of laws and regulations. And Eric cuts him off and says, you old folks don't get it anymore, all right? I get that you're threatened because you realize I'm the future, but it is what it is. And at that point, Mark decides that he's not going to go out of his way to help this dude. He's just gonna let him do what he has to do. And the way that they train new people just to see their level of knowledge and like see if they could understand concepts being taught to them but not risk the business any money, is they had the entire like the trading account management set up, not necessarily like day trading, but just portfolio management set up. And then they would give them $50,000, but like fake money, but they didn't tell them that. Like it was the real software, but the money was not real. The prices were real. The movements were real. So that way, if they're an idiot and they like break the law, it's not like this entire investment bank has to go belly up. They're just training them. And it's not a ginormous investment bank, by the way. I didn't realize that there's some that are not big. In my mind, all of them are just like Goldman Sachs because I don't know a lot about it. But this guy's is like, there's like 40 people that work there. It's relatively large. And so he sets him up the account and he's like, all right, well, if you need anything, please let me know. Like, I'm seriously here to help. I just started about 2 years ago, so like I can help you. And once again, Eric cuts him off and he's like, listen, Mark, I don't need your help. All right. I'm here to outperform you. Okay. And he just can't believe the ego on this dude. Because here's the thing. Obviously, if you're at the job to make money for people, then like you want to be the best at making money. Everyone knows that. That's just like an unspoken agreement amongst everybody there. But you don't have to throw your coworkers in the dumpster to do it. Like everyone can make money, It's not like only one of you has to have the ability to make money there. You have to snuff out everybody else.
Hopefully, there's not only one guy at the bank that's capable of making money at a time. Could you imagine how bad the Sith would be at business? Awkward Star Wars side note, but like, okay, there's only two of them. No wonder they haven't been able to succeed, dude. They don't have the funds. Oh no, there's two of us, like the Jedi, dude. You know, they figured it out. For a while, all right, we're not going to talk about what happened after, but for a while, think about it. How are you supposed to scale your business without, like, a bunch of employees? And stormtroopers don't count because they suck. Like, let's be honest. We've seen stormtrooper accuracy. Either way, he's just really going to let this kid, like, jump into the deep end. And if he can swim, sweet. But if not, it's not his problem anymore. But they had a way to make sure that if somebody was, like, going to really deny the training, that they had to sign an agreement with their trainer just so that way they couldn't go to the boss later and be like, oh, well, they never taught me anything. It's their fault. So you have to sign a paper being like, I told them that I do not want any training. I am 100% sure that I don't want any training. In fact, if anyone tries to train me, I will do the most insane 360 no-scope Cobra Kai kick that you've ever seen in your life, and I will disconnect your jaw from the rest of your skull. But he goes to tell his boss about it because, you know, it's his boss's son. So if he's going to mess up and, like, not sign this training agreement and not take any training, then he figures that his boss probably should know about it just to be aware of it. And his boss is like, can you please try to help him? You know, please, like, go in there and try one more time. And so Mark, being guilt-tripped by his boss, decides that he's going to go try one more time to talk to Eric. So he goes over there, and Eric literally, before he even says anything, says, go away, Mark, I'm trying to work. So he goes back to his boss, almost like he's playing ping pong back and forth, and tells him. And so his boss says he's going to go try. So he goes to Eric's cubicle and says, wait here to Mark, like in his office. And he comes back 15 minutes later looking mad and says to Mark that Eric told him, the boss, that he was gunning for his job and he doesn't want any help. And even Mark is flabbergasted by that. Like, it's one thing to tell off some dude, I guess, that you don't really know, but to tell the guy that is giving you the chance to screw off and you're gunning for his job is a little out there. Like, that's a little disrespectful, you know? Even if your dad is super high up in the company, I don't think he would like that, because I'm sure he would not appreciate somebody coming in and speaking to him like that the same way, you know? He is your boss at the end of the day. So whatever, he's over here threatening everybody's job like he's just got the ability to just, you fired everybody. But then he pulls something out that surprises Mark. He has another letter where he rejected training from the boss. So now they have proof that he's rejected training from two different people. And he kind of asks his boss, like, well, why did you get a second one, you know? And he says, because I just, by the vibe the kid gave me about gunning for my job, know that the kid's going to do something shady if he can't perform. Like, he's going to try to find a way to blame us, and it's just a gut feeling. So they're waiting in the office, kind of talking about stuff, and about 30 minutes later, after this entire interaction, right? So not a very long period of time, Eric comes into the boss's office, doesn't knock, just flings the door open and walks in. Hey, I need more money in that account. I'm almost out of the 50. And they're like, what do you mean? And he says, yeah, I made a few bad trades, you know, just beginner's bad luck, so I'm going to need some more money because it's gone. And they're like, dude, there was $50,000 in that account. How did you do that? Keep in mind, they tell the new guys that it's real. It's not like this guy is aware of the fact that it was play money and he was taking risks that maybe he wouldn't with real money. They think it's real. So he's just casually coming in like, oh, I just lost 50 grand. It doesn't matter. And so they're asking him, like, why did he do that? How did he do that? Like, how is he not freaking out? And he just kind of shrugs his shoulders and goes, I know sometimes you got to spend money to make money, huh? Yeah, dude, but you're not opening a business. That's not like a saying for investment banking. Your only job is to take money and turn it into more money. That's literally it. That is literally your only job. Spending money to make money applies to like advertising for a business, you know, maybe buying new equipment, getting a new website or something. It doesn't necessarily apply to like investment banking. Oh, hey, I took all of the money you gave me to invest and I spent it all. We're not going to get any of it back, but I will say that it was sweet. And if you're asking why I did it, you got to spend money to make money. So somewhere along this line, we're going to make the money back because I spent it and it is going to be a good time. Like, that's just not how it works. The boss, though, knows that Eric isn't just like the standard guy, and because it is $50,000 in fake money, he has to be careful because he doesn't want him to go to his boss and get him fired. So he says that he's going to give him an additional $50,000. Tells him it's real money, it's not, but makes it very clear to Eric that this is real. And he says, okay, I'll be careful, just put it in my account, and he walks out before anything else can be said. And Mark looks at his boss and is like, why did you give him another $50,000, why are you doing all this? And he says, well, the guy just lost $50,000 in 30 minutes, so when I inevitably have to fire him, and I have to have that conversation with my boss, who's his dad, I have to make sure that I have some pretty good reasonings as to why that went down. And if the kid manages to lose $100,000 in the first 2 weeks of working here, I feel like that's a pretty good reason. And it stinks that, that's the way the world works sometimes. You have to have double extra proof that somebody's not cut out for the job because of who their parents is, bro. Parents are. Sorry, that was just a real bad English moment. But you guys get what I'm saying. If this was anybody else and you managed to lose $50,000 in 30 minutes, they probably just would have escorted you out. It's not like you would have gotten another chance at that point. But maybe, just maybe, Eric got off to a bad start. He can pull it out. Nope. Absolutely not. 2 days later, Eric runs out of money and storms in asking for more. And Mark happened to be in the office that time too, and his boss says, no, you need to have a seat, Eric, we have to talk. And he tells him that they're going to have to let him go because it's just not working out. He had lost $100,000 in a week. He had refused to listen. It's just not going to work. And Eric just starts going absolutely ballistic, How dare you ignore my talent? I'm going to be the best stock investment man of all time. What talent are they ignoring, man? The talent would be if you were good at making money. You actually did the exact opposite. You somehow found a way to do the exact opposite. So the boss doubles down and says, hey, it's just not going to work. You're not cut out for this type of stuff. And Eric, of course, pulls out the big guns. Do you have any idea who my dad is? And the boss is very blunt and says, it's not going to work. I would not recommend getting your dad involved. And Eric gets up, pulls out his phone, and starts yelling that, just wait till my father hears about this. Some straight up Charlie and the Chocolate Factory level stuff. And storms out. And they see him out in the parking lot on the phone talking, and he's super animated, so you can tell he's just pissed off. And he hangs up and comes back in all smug and says that, my dad's gonna come in and talk to you about this. And the boss doesn't get scared. He just smiles and says, all right, man, I told you wouldn't want to get your father involved, because he had just fallen into the trap card, bro. Now he gets to explain to your dad how bad you are at this. And about an hour later, a dude in a suit comes in, clearly a very important fellow, and he's like, hi, I'm blank, I'm here to meet with your manager, and they go into this room, and Eric and Mark are called in since Mark witnessed everything and Eric's involved. And the dad opens extremely pissed off. Rip, I thought I could trust you to train my son. He says you didn't train him and you set him up to fail to make an example out of him. You should have given him some training. It's not his fault he couldn't perform since he wasn't trained. And the boss doesn't let Eric's dad finish before he has the forms out. He doesn't interrupt him, but as he's speaking, he pulls the forms out. And as the dad finishes his little rant about how no one trained him, he hands him the papers and he says, well, here's the 2 papers that he signed saying that he did not want our training and that we were not to get involved with him at all. And I think, what was it? And he looks at Eric, buzz off. Is that what you said? And Eric kind of eyes go wide and he realizes, oh crap, this might not go the way that I thought it was going to go. And his dad's face changes and he looks at Eric and he's like, Eric, why did you say that you didn't want help? Why did you do this? And even then, you denied it from 2 people. Why did you go out of your way to sign these? And Eric, still a little bit embarrassed, but not fully gone of his ego, decides to double down. I know what I'm doing, Dad. I don't need training. And it's at that point that it registers, oh, my kid did this to himself. This is not their fault. Very obviously, there's a problem here. And so he kind of starts trying to double down and says that his trades were making all this money and they don't know where, the idea that he isn't performing comes from. And his boss says, all right, well, let's just pull up your account. And Mark smiles because he knows that this account is going to be just the worst managed thing of all time. And sure enough, he pulls it up, puts it on this big screen for everyone to look at, and he had managed to lose $100,000 somehow before the first week had ended. And he pulls up every transaction. They go over them all, explaining like where it was, how much money it lost. And something that you have to realize about the stock market is like a broken clock is still right twice a day. You know, the time is still that twice. So even if you're just dumb and you're gambling, eventually you should be able to have a profitable trade. Overall, you'll definitely lose money, but everyone could have like doubled their money one time if you're just throwing money into random stuff. This guy had somehow managed to lose money on every trade, which is almost more impressive. Like he somehow actually beat the odds of straight up gambling at being bad. That's going above and beyond. That means he wasn't just picking random stuff. He was putting research in and just being wrong every single time. So it takes a while, but they finally get to the end of all these transactions. And Eric is sinking into his chair the entire time because he realizes what's going to happen. But now his dad is pissed off too. And he turns to Eric and he's like, "You told me you were doing good and they weren't teaching you anything." And Eric, not realizing how dumb this sound goes, well, it would have been fine if they went the opposite direction. Yeah, that's not really how it works, you know? If you put money in a company expecting it to go up and it goes down, you can't go, "Oh, man, 50-50 chance," like you still lost money. It's not just a coin flip. And so at that point, his dad turns to Mark and his boss and starts apologizing and is like, "I'm so sorry, I get it, I understand that Eric can't work here anymore." And Eric interrupts his dad and is like, "What about my job? I need to work." And his dad now is fully embarrassed. Remember, he drove away from his job to come down here and like try to get involved and keep his son's job. And he says that he's just been embarrassed enough. Eric blew this opportunity. He's not going to go to bat for him anymore. And Eric starts looking like the whole world just landed on his shoulders, bro. The first time he had heard no in his life, the first time he had ever failed. And they end up leaving. But the entire time, the boss is like super apologetic, which is good on him. I feel like most people probably would have either been mad or been embarrassed and just fled as fast as possible. At least he had the awareness to realize that it was his kid's fault. Either way, I am going to give credit to Mark's boss for knowing exactly how that was going to go down. He's like, "Look, we need the forms. We need to make sure that we got enough proof to show that it's really not going to work," because he did exactly what he thought he was going to do. Eric, a little bit of advice, man. There's plenty of ways to be very successful that don't involve like working and investing. You know, there's tons of people that make a lot of money not in investment banking. I think you're going to have to be one of those people. You sound extra bad at investing. It's not for everybody. Either way, that's the first story that I have for today's video. If you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate you pressing the like button, and let's get on to the next. Alright, before we get into the next story time, on screen now is a gift card code. I give one of these away in every video. Just say thank you to everyone who's subscribed with those notifications on. So if you haven't already, you might as well just scroll down there, subscribe, turn on those noties, and if you already are, then you're a legend. You already know. So yeah, I'll shut up and let's get into the next story. Alright, this next one was sent in to me by somebody named Max who works at a store in the mall. And it's like one of the 4 stores in every mall that sells the exact same stuff, but they all have different names and they're all a different company, but they sell the exact same thing. And it was right around back to school time, and it just so happened that this mall still is a madhouse. I was kind of surprised it still gets busy there. I feel like everyone just does the online shopping thing, but people are everywhere. It's packed. Some people are like just throwing clothes up in the air just to try to make a distraction while they run for the exit. It's been a crazy day. And this guy comes in with his mom, and something is very weird about the way they're staring at him. It's almost like they're sizing him up, and he doesn't know them. He's just working. And he walks up to them because they're staring at him, and he's like, "Hey, can I help you guys with anything?" And they both look at him, very clearly look at his name tag, and then go, "Max!" And he's confused because, like I said, he has no clue who these people are. Like, 100% does not know them. And so he tries to, like, nicely ask, "Hey, who are you guys? It's been a while. I don't really recognize you. You look so different." And the spoiled kid, who I'm just going to refer to as spoiled kid, goes, "Max, are you kidding me? Come on, it's me, bro." And Max is just kind of standing there staring at him. And he's like, "I'm sorry, I'm confused." And he, instead of explaining who he is, saying a name or anything, goes, "Oh, Max, it's totally cool. Anyways, since we're old friends, can I use your employee discount?"
And it clicks. Oh, they were sizing me up because they were like, I bet you we can trick that guy into letting us use his employee discount. He probably thought that most people in a very awkward situation like this wouldn't want to admit, bro, I don't know you, so they would just be nice and let you use the discount. I don't know, that still seems like a long shot, but either way, Max is like, I don't know these. So now that he realizes that they're trying to mess with him, he decides that he's going to troll him back. Because look, if you're going to make me pretend to know you to try to get a discount, like I feel like trolling them back is just allowed. And so Max, not wanting to get played, says, anyways, I'm more than happy to let you use the employee discount, but our policy is that you have to know my mom's name. Like, that's how close we have to be. And the kid and the Karen look at each other like deer in headlights and are shocked. And the spoiled kid's like, oh, come on, Max, there's no need for that. Like, come on, we go way back. And it's not even a rule. Like, he totally made that up. He just wanted to mess with them. And so Max decides to mess with them a little bit further. He has this woman manager that's a little bit older who's insanely chill, like the best manager to work with, super fun, great. And they kind of have fun trolling rude customers from time to time. And so he calls her over and she comes over and he's like, hey, do you recognize them? And she says no, because obviously she doesn't. And the spoiled kid, who, keep in mind, goes way back with Max, definitely knows his mom's name, but isn't going to say it right now, goes, oh, who is this? And Max takes this chance to mess with him and goes, dude, it's my mom. Don't you know her? And you would have thought that the two of them saw a ghost. They were like, so great to see you. And like I said, this manager's super chill and fun to work with, so she kind of rolls with it and is like, oh, are you a friend of Max's? It's so great to get to know people that are friends with my son. And they start freaking out, and they're like, yeah, it's so great to see you. And so Max says, yeah, they say they know us, Mom. Where do we know you from? And once they start asking questions, the mom grabs her son by the arm and says, whoops, we were mistaken, let's go. And before they can peel out of there, which is clearly their intention, Max, wanting to just like drive home the embarrassment a little bit, goes, oh, you were mistaken? Well then, why did you say my name? Like, you said my name, you know? How would you be mistaken if you knew my name? And they both just get really bright-eyed and don't say anything and just run out of the store. They don't literally run, but you know that like hurried walk that people do when they've clearly got somewhere to be, but it's inappropriate to run in public? I'm just saying, if I see an adult running in public outside of like literally running clothes, like if someone's running in running clothes, you know what's happening. But if you ever see a dude in a suit just sprinting, I'm just going to assume that whatever is that direction is scary. Like, because why is a dude in a suit sprinting that way? Either way, that was stupid. I apologize. I don't know. They leave. Him and the manager crack up, but then they start talking about it, and they're like, I don't really even understand the point. You're just going to confuse me into thinking I know you for like a 10% off code? Like, dude, just go online and look one up. If anything, I feel like it's easier to get those discount codes online rather than going in and trying to convince someone that you're old childhood friends. Super sick that you have a manager that just kind of lets you troll customers though, you know? Like, most managers would be like, that's so inappropriate! Alright, and the last story I have, yeah, that's right, there's another one. You know what? I'm gonna do it again. Press the like button, because we're 26 minutes in and I still got another one. Anyways, this is from something that I witnessed. So I end up going to this restaurant with a few of my friends, which is like downtown in the town I live in. And there's always something dumb going on downtown in the town I live in. In the town I live in. Why did I like just do a country song stutter right there? I apologize. Anyways, we walk in and we see like a huge 1 in 8 balloon, and we assume that someone is either turning 81 or 18, because those are the two combinations right there, and we don't see a ton of old people, so we just assume there's gonna be a birthday party. And we walk past it in the lobby, and after that, I kind of forgot it existed. It's not like it was something that I really was sitting there thinking about. Who really cares? People have birthdays, people have balloons. It's not a big deal. It's just funny because it involves later the spoiled kid having to like sadly take the balloons out. Anyways, we start like eating our meal and we're just having ourselves a normal conversation, and all of a sudden we hear this commotion behind us. It's like a ton of screaming, and we turn around and we see this guy holding the balloons and he's yelling, "It's my birthday!" And it's not like in a celebratory, like, it's my birthday way, you know, it's a very angry, it's my birthday, like he's telling somebody off, a very angry man. And the entire restaurant gets really quiet because obviously everyone's turning their attention to this and kind of like, hold on, let's see what's going on. I'm not saying that reality television is just based on society, but I think if people start making a scene, the natural human reaction is to just watch. I think that's why reality TV does well, because it's just people making a scene all the time. Anyways, what's very apparent is he's yelling at somebody for ordering something that he doesn't like. Keep in mind, they're not ordering it for him. It's not like, oh, we only get to order one thing and we're all gonna share. There's a ton of people. They had just ordered something that they wanted to eat that he was not a fan of. And he's yelling at them because apparently it's insanely rude to order something that the host doesn't like if you're out at a restaurant, but you're not the host, you're at a restaurant, and on top of that, who cares? Like, that's so stupid, bro. There's some food that I'm not a fan of, but if I'm out to dinner with my friend and they order it, I'm not gonna be like, oh, are you disgusting? Do you know how rude you are? No, who cares? Like, people have different tastes, dude. Imagine getting yelled at because you ordered something someone else doesn't like. And of course, the person isn't really taking it, but they're not yelling back. The only reason we know is because the birthday boy just kept yelling, like, you can't argue with me on my birthday, are you crazy? Do you remember that old Tyler, the Creator Vine where it's like, what, did you bring me a birthday gift for my birthday on my birthday to celebrate my birthday? And he smashes the wine glass. That was really the vibe of what was going on. Like, you can't argue with me. It's my birthday. I hate people that think their birthday just gives them an excuse to do whatever they want. Like, congratulations, it's your birthday. It is a special day. People should be nicer to you than normal. However, I do think some people take it too far and they're like, whatever, officer, who cares that I punched the police horse? It's my birthday. And it's like, you can't do that. You can't really scream at everybody and freak out on them just because it's your birthday. But whatever, everyone's just kind of watching. And the manager walks up at this point because he's realized everybody's watching. And then the birthday boy starts going off on the manager because it's his birthday. Who do you think you are? You can't tell me what to do. Do you have any clue what day it is? Yes, you can probably guess what day it is. I don't want to say it again. And you can't really hear the manager because he's not yelling, but he's trying to kick the party out. And the entire party, realizing that they're causing a scene and everyone's staring, they just get up and leave, except for the birthday boy. Like, they realize, all right, let's get out of here. This is insanely embarrassing. I don't want to be here. But the birthday boy stands there and keeps arguing. And it was like everyone hit their maximum embarrassment and left but him. He proceeds to start going in on the manager. I'm talking about every insult under the sun. He's calling him stupid. He's calling him poor. He's calling him just like a loser. You name it. He's hurling it at him. And he's taking it like a champ. Honestly, dude, this guy definitely grew up in a Call of Duty lobby because he was like, oh, that's it? That's all you got? I'm a stupid poor loser? Oh, okay, buddy. Yeah, all right, look at you. You're freaking out holding balloons, buddy. Like, what do you want me to do? Take this insult seriously? Anyways, he lets that out and the manager goes, happy birthday, get out, and walks away, which was just an absolute G move. And after that, the birthday boy stomps outside and starts yelling at everybody out there for leaving. He probably was like, oh, why'd you guys abandon me? But I'll tell you why, because you were freaking out and causing a scene for literally no reason, and everyone was staring at you because it's your birthday. I feel like after that, I would definitely not go to that person's birthday again. I probably wouldn't really hang out with them either. Like, dang, man, that's a little wild. At least this person's not, like, insanely old. Like, 18 is definitely too old to be doing this, but, like, at least it's not a 37-year-old. Like, at that point, you're just not gonna change. You know, I feel like people can change a ton when they're like, a young adult, like, 18, 20, 30s. Once you hit, like, 40, though, bro, like, how much change are you really gonna do? Maybe that's doomer of me, because I'm not that old yet. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I'd really appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. If you also enjoyed, you should go ahead and comment. This was a really long one, so I'd appreciate the comment and the like. It just helps the video do better. And if you're new, subscribe, turn on those notifications so you never miss out. And if you want to listen to this in a podcast form, I do post these on Spotify as a podcast. Feel free to check that out. And because the Christmas season is approaching, I'm going to take the time to plug the Christmas Karen sweater. Look at this thing. It's absolutely glamorous. Back again this year. So if you want to get the Karen Christmas sweater, I'll throw the link down below. No pressure. But on that note, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. And I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.